Sleepy town settling for the night, where the Owens women live their lives. And it's about time that the back porch light comes on at that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Hello.
Hello.
We're ordering Chinese food. Hold on.
Oh, I'm so jealous. What are you gonna get?
We're gonna do. I've never seen this on the menu before. Chicken and string beans. Do you know what you want?
I mean, I just had. Are you good with what you want?
Throw in a steamed dumpling.
What steamed dumpling?
Yeah, throw in one of those. Is a vegetable roll? It's like a spring roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me do one of those.
Oh yeah. Just hype up your order for you.
Oh yes.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I was able to turn a whole Chinese food order into podcast content. Like as soon as like the Zoom comes on, like podcast voice, like, so hey, you're ordering Chinese. So how's that content for you?
It sounds yummy. Woo.
It's been a day. So you guys don't know this, but this is actually we're breaking from our schedule this week.
Kristina done overloaded her calendar.
Kristina done fucked up. Yeah, but it's okay. You're lucky I'm a Sag, and I'm like, whatever. We'll fit it in when we fit it in.
I'm really appreciative of your flexibility and
Yeah. Remember that for when I flake out, and then you're like, but this is our job now, Justina. And I'm like, well, hey, Kristina, remember that one time you fucked up? Yeah, my turn now, bitch. So let me have it.
Yeah. Usually we record on a Tuesday, but that Tuesday was taken up with a doctor's appointment. So it moved to Thursday, but then that Thursday I was like, oh shit, I made a date to go out with a friend 3 weeks ago. And oh my God. I have been like double posting things on Instagram. Like I showed up to my dog's vet appointment I made at 1:00. I was there on time, and they were like, "Oh, we don't see you in here." And I'm looking at the confirmation email. It's for the Charlotte location, which he's never been to, which is another 25 minutes up the road. The appointment I went to on Tuesday was the rescheduling because I was there the week before, and they were like, "Huh, you're not on here. Let me look at the email." And it's because February's dates are the same as March. So everybody was getting confused. So I have just not even been in my body this whole week. Plus all the amazing stuff that you and I've gotten to do within the last week.
It's been a whirlwind.
It's overwhelming.
I was thinking about it today, and I was like, we've been a podcaster for what, 4 months?
Oh yeah, 4, I guess, huh? I consider we started way earlier. I'm like, oh my God, we're almost at 6 months already. We should have a 6-month celebration.
Technically, we did start like a month earlier because we had to get all our ducks in a row before we even. So yeah, technically we were actually working on this for more than 4 months, but officially we've only been a podcast for 4 months.
Yeah. But like if you look, how many weeks are in a year? 50 or 52?
I don't know. Yeah, 52, I think.
52?
Yeah.
So it would be episode 27. Is that right?
Would that be the halfway mark?
Because we're already at episode 22. That's what I'm saying.
Oh. Okay. All right. Somebody fucked up the math here. We're gonna have to go back to the panel on this one. But we usually record on Tuesdays, but this week now we're not only are we recording on a Thursday, we're recording on a Thursday night. So Kristina had a nice little nap.
Oh, I took a real sweaty nap under my heating pad. It was great.
So she's good to go.
And I'm clean. In this episode, we're gonna have a little bit of an extra goodie involving video. so sorry, patrons. You get to see, well, at least I'm clean, I guess.
So as you guys know, this is our tea episode, and we're also going to talk about Tasseomancy a little bit, which is the reading of tea leaves. So me and Kristina are going to do some reading of each other's tea leaves a little later on, and we're going to use some of the video portion of this and throw that up on the Patreon. So all of you $8 and up tier patrons can get in on that and see us be idiots in real time and just see us trying to decipher each other's tea leaves.
Yeah. And we would love your feedback of what you have divined, because you'll be able to see what's inside each of our cups.
Yeah. We have some I threw some pop culture movie scenes.
I can't wait to hear that because I didn't see any of that yet.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I thought there would have been more, but I could only find a few that popped up on YouTube. I just typed in like tea leaf reading scenes and only like a few popped up. I'm sure there's more, but those are I only found a few.
Well, this is the patron pick. This was the voted upon topic for merch.
Speaking of patrons, we have a couple new ones.
This month has been fucking wild. Who are our patrons?
So we have Peace Love Dogs.
Peace Love Dogs. Cute.
So welcome. We're so excited to have you. And then also we have Grounded by the Moon, who is the wonderful creator of the Inner Witch Oracle, which we use on every single episode. Hello. I am fangirling so hard because we've been using his deck since the beginning of this whole adventure.
Let's quick talk about this because one of our very first episodes, or the second one, we were talking about how amazing this deck is, and we're going to use it every show, and it's a great way to like just block it, like put something fun in, and how you helped like with the, supported the Kickstarter, et cetera, and now we get to talk with them.
Yeah. And I even remember on that first episode, and I'm sure we've said this on episodes since, how we're like, okay, so we're going to pull from the Inner Witch Oracle. Sidebar, not sponsored, but right. I guess we kind of, are we sponsored now? Are we sponsored? But we are planning on doing a little collab with Joseph of Grounded by the Moon. Yeah, thank you, Joseph, so much Joseph was so kind as to send us some of his Kickstarter packages, his boxes with his brand new tarot deck, the Inner Witch Tarot.
Stunning tarot deck. I'm so happy beautiful. I got the like oil slick black one. It's beautiful.
I was hoping you got that one. I love the gold leaf, and I was like, oh, Kristina's gonna love that oil slick one if she gets that one, and you did.
It's so pretty. So what we're saying is thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to put all my fangirling bullshit just now. Like,
it's going in.
You can edit all that out.
No,
I'm just like, I can't even believe it got to this point where he wants to work with us. He wants to work with us, and I'm just
we're nobody.
We're nothing. We're a very small speck in the pool of practical magic creators. So
we're two dumb bitches who just had $60 between us and bought snowball mics, and we're able to figure out social media for this thing.
And consistency, that's also a really important thing, right? I mean, you can have the tools, you can have the talent, but if you don't have the consistency, it's not, where's it going to go?
Do we have the talent?
Exactly. I don't fucking know, but we have the consistency, and I feel like that's the most important thing. So I think we're good. I think we're good.
And you know what? And like, you guys are so sweet, and some of you have sent in audio messages. We got our first audio message we're going to play, and we have some really nice messages from other followers we're going to share really quick. But this first one is from Mandy, and Mandy runs the Pickety Pumpkin. Super adorable, super cool Instagram like aesthetic, right?
Yeah, it's like all Halloween stuff. It's adorable. Yeah, she reached out to us and she sent us a nice little voicemail, and it just made me all giddy. And I was like, can we please play this on the show? She's like, sure, yeah. So we're gonna play it for you right now.
Hello. Okay, so I'm Mandy. I've been listening to your podcast like randomly all day, and I just wanted to say thank you for sharing Alice Hoffman's practical magic and the world it encompasses. I am like so energized and pumped from your episodes. I have a lot to catch up on, which is like a good Netflix show, when you binge watch it. So thank you. Anyways, you're just so inspiring, and I'm not part of your Patreon, but someday. But as a thank you, I've got some really cool stuff. So let me know, and I'd be happy to ship those out. Okay. Yeah, I'm not a stalker, I swear to God. Anyways, bye.
I trust anybody who just starts with, I'm not a stalker. You know what I mean?
I'm not a stalker.
Mandy, thank you so much. And we love getting to know everybody who hops on our Instagram. And
it's amazing how interconnected all the fans of this movie and the books are. Everybody's just so supportive and inspiring each other. And I think I say that a little bit later on after another one that we read, because it's just been blowing me away.
It's like that story, at least the practical magic story, came into so many people's lives at this, maybe just me, but like at a time in their lives where it was so transitional, like either with it was age, or maybe like your kids were leaving the house or something, you know what I mean? And it just like leaves its mark on your heart as a very special story.
Yeah, 100%. So Mandy, we can't wait to see whatever you're sending us. I'm like intrigued now. Like,
And there's no pressure ever for anybody to become a patron or send us anything. We really love what we're doing, and that's why we're doing, and getting to meet other people and letting Alice Hoffman know that this is wanted. This is in demand, I guess.
People want this, apparently. Yeah. So I guess we're doing something right. Thanks, Mandy, for sending in. That was so sweet. And I love how she's so cute. She's like, okay, bye.
Okay, bye. You fit right in on Magnolia Street. We're weirdos.
I'm not a stalker. Okay, bye. Yeah, really cute. So the next one we have is from Willow and Birch. Also awesome Instagram. So Willow and Birch goes by WB Apothecary on Instagram. Her aesthetic is just gorgeous. So
why does ours look like such a shit show?
Because it is a shit show, because we are a hot mess express, and you know what, I don't hate it.
That's okay. Remember when we started out with like Billy Butcherson, Billy Zane punky memes? We've come a long way.
We have come a long way in a very short amount of time, so I'm very proud. Yeah, I'm proud of us. But Willow and Birch says, hi, I just finished listening to your first episode and I am in love with you both. I'm so excited to dive into more episodes. Practical magic has had such a profound impact on my life, and it's even been a huge inspiration for my brand. And I can't wait to nerd out with you through your podcast.
Oh, she's in love with us.
Yeah.
We're very codependent. Just make sure you know that.
And then she also sent us a picture, right? She said, I'm listening to the house episode now. She sent us another message a little while later saying that she's listening to the house episode. She said, I was lucky enough to visit the spot on San Juan Island years ago, and it's beautiful. And then she sent us a photo, very beautiful photo of her on, I guess, the bluff, the rocks overlooking the water. Yeah. And she said, that's me proudly standing at that very special spot. It was a really special moment visiting that spot, and we were even visited by a couple of deer while we were enjoying the view, and it was so sweet. Yeah, beautiful picture, right?
I think I would sob if it's a public park, right? It's a part of a state park.
Yeah,
that the bluffs are.
Isn't it on Indian holy ground or burial ground? Or something like that?
Right, and I think I would just kind of have a very somber moment with myself, and just everybody. Bring a sign to put on my back like she's fine. Leave her be.
Or I just saw a headline the other day, like a lifeguard was telling a little girl not to bother the seals. Yeah, there was a lifeguard, a little girl was like throwing like something at that seals that were coming up onto the shore, and the lifeguard was like, excuse me, little girl, can you not do that, or something like that. So that's going to be like, I'm just going to be standing there while you're sitting on the rock crying. And then when people try to throw you food or whatever, I'm just gonna like,
food I welcome. You'll be my bodyguard.
Yeah, excuse me, people. Don't bother the crying woman.
You sing Whitney Houston.
I'm going to sing the Celine Dion song.
Isn't she singing a Cher song?
Yeah, no, I was referring to the Titanic theme, but okay. It could be that one if you want it to be.
Wow, full circle.
I was trying to bring it back to Billy Zane. But
yeah.
That one went over your head. It's all right.
I am still kind of in my head about that love story.
Isn't it nuts? I know this is a hefty episode, so we won't get around to it today, but I definitely think we should follow up with how Jillian and him had a romance.
It'll be like a flashback scene.
Yeah.
Like Jillian in California. How did they meet?
Yeah, I want to know. So we're gonna have to get back to AI about that and see what happens, and we'll take you guys with us down this very strange rabbit hole.
Awesome. So our next, who do we have next? We have Alana Accessories.
Yeah. I bought some stickers from her. This was the girl who was the Titanic plus Practical Magic. I saw her post something about both of them, and I was like, oh my god, it's meant to be. I have to buy these stickers. She was gushing about the podcast. She said, I just wanted to let you know I'm listening to the first episode. After I bought her stickers, she checked out our podcast. So she said, I just want to let you know I'm listening to the first episode and I'm already hooked. I love it. Looking forward to listening to more. You both have an incredible podcast here. I love the energy. I love how excited you both are for practical magic, and it makes my heart so happy. I love that you both bring different things that combine together so well. It feels like magic, and I am just so excited that something like this exists. I'm so glad you both took the leap and made this happen. It's not easy putting yourself out there, especially on the internet. Plus, it's always so refreshing to see women supporting women and being total boss babes. I love it. Your energy is contagious, and I love the enthusiasm.
Dang, Elena.
Isn't that sweet?
Elena.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then she sent me an updated message saying that she was halfway through the podcast episode with Laura and the Black Soap.
She got far.
Yeah. Well, she might be jumping around. I'm not sure the order that she's listening to.
Yeah.
But she listened to the one with Laura and the Black Soap, and she was surprised that Laura mentioned the Ottawa River because she was like, I live near the same river.
No way.
It's apparently it's a very long river and it goes past many different places. But she was like, I couldn't believe it. Out of all places Laura could be from, she was like, I was shook. So
we have Canadians listening to us. That's what and Australians. Like,
yeah. So she reached out to Laura to let her know that they shared the same river. So I just thought it was so cool how all of our listeners are intermingling and getting to know one another, and we're forming a little community, and it's really cool. And then I want to follow that up with Bee Design Boutique on Instagram. But they commented on our photos of the Black Soap that we got from Laura and said that they reached out to Laura last year for the print of that label, the little bird, I guess, that Laura has on her label of the soap. And Laura commented back on our post after Bee Design Boutique commented that and said that Laura said she has the same print in her powder room because of that suggestion.
That's sweet. Really cool.
So I think it's amazing that everyone in our little community is just reaching out to each other, inspiring each other. And if there's one goal that we had going into this podcast, it was just bringing more Practical Magic fans together. And it's been such a treat to be able to do that in this space. So I just wanted to say that.
You know what's hit me also is how many of them are so fucking creative. So talented. Does that just come with the territory? Like, it's like not all of them are witches, which we have talked about. Not all of them follow the pagan path, but it seems to like go like hand in hand. Like we have this innate desire to create something. And I think that's really beautiful. Beautiful.
To create and to connect, I guess, right? Because that's such like a witchy thing in and of itself, just forming connection.
I made this thing. I want to share it with you.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Corn.
It's corn. That one.
I mean, I've never seen a more beautiful thing.
I was like, wait, where are we going with this? So then we have one from Lunar Leos LLC. They run a beautiful online shop. They make ritual oils, and they even just recently made a Practical Magic themed set. Actually, I think they made it a while ago. And then they ran out really quickly, but then they just restocked, but that again sold out really quickly. I reposted their restock announcement, and then they commented back saying, "Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing. We love seeing your updates. Your podcast and graphics and content are all beautiful. You guys are doing a great job. Practical Magic is our favorite movie and book series, so the love is strong."
Aww.
Yeah, very sweet. And I talked to them a while, like for a little bit, and we were talking about like the different theories that we were talking about on the show. And I didn't realize this, but the girls who run this shop are also hosts of The Lion, the Witch, and the Podcast. Have you ever heard of that podcast?
Oh, what? I've heard of the podcast. I haven't listened to it yet.
Right. I've heard of the podcast too. Haven't listened to it yet. But it's been on my list of witchy podcasts to listen to. But I didn't realize that I was talking to the hosts of that podcast. So that's really cool. Just to be intermingling with other witchy podcasters is really cool.
Can you imagine being not born? I always think like I'm an old soul and like, oh, another decade would fit right in. But like, no, I would be institutionalized, burned at the stake. We get to talk about our witchcraft on an open platform where all these other witches get to come in and like join us. Isn't that insane?
We are public, all right. But yeah,
it's surreal.
It is, but in the best way.
Yeah.
Like I would have never thought my little 13-year-old self who had to shut myself in my room or be in the back of a bookstore huddling over a book would one day be able to just be like, I'm a witch.
I know.
You know, like Sally in the movie. We did put out not an open call, not like a submission thing like or anything like that, but just like, hey, if you're an artisan and you want to share your stuff, let us know. We'd love to share it on the show. A woman named Suzanne wrote us from a tea company called the Alchemy of Avalon. So she said your most recent Instagram post mentioned wanting to hear from artisans who create goods inspired by our favorite movie and books. So here's mine. My tea is created from all the botanicals mentioned in the movie besides, she made it very clear, besides the belladonna.
All caps.
So no belladonna is included in any of her teas. Just she wants to make sure you know that. She said, I was also making a Maria Owens essential oil spray for a while, but currently it's taking a break. Hope to hear from you soon. Love what you're doing. From Suzanne of Alchemy of Avalon LLC.
Thank you, Suzanne. So we also threw it out to our patrons on Discord. We have a Patreon perspective thread on there where we invite y'all to play along, answer questions. You guys get the calendar ahead of time of what we're going to be talking about. So if you have any input or experience with the topics coming up, you're welcome to share your thoughts. So we put the question forward about tea, and our lovely little patron Couch Sprite had this to say. They said, I've always been interested in tea leaf reading ever since I saw it in Coraline. Coraline come back around too.
There you go.
Raspberry leaf tea has been a real lifesaver for me when it comes to my menstrual cramps. I also have cramps outside my period thanks to my IUD, so I drink it quite a bit. Sleepy time tea, the one with the bear on it, is very special to me. My grandma used to give it to me and my siblings when we were children to help us sleep. She passed away last September. We're so sorry. And I often have a cup of tea before bed and have a chat with her. She was the best and kindest person I've ever met. And then I don't know if it made it into the episode, if it was the last one or the one before. I was like, oh my God, I'm watching our Discord and how just sweet our patrons are to each other over there on the Discord. But Stargazer, one of our patrons over there, replied to Couch Sprite and said, I love that. It's so wonderful that you have a drink of tea with your grandma. That's a great way to keep her in your life. Keep looking for her in your life. She's for sure spreading little hints of her love, letting you know that she's around. Let her kindness be expressed through you and carry her in your heart always. My grandma was the same. A kind and loving soul, a 1 cup of coffee a day person. I drink coffee and beer with her often. Oh my God, I love that. It's been, oh gosh, had to count years and the tears started. Oh, honey. About 8 years now. I still feel like she's on a very long vacation. She continues to give little hints that she's here with my family, observing and participating in our lives, even with the next generation of little ones who haven't met her. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And again, I love how they're all intermingling in our Discord over there and just being of support for one another. It's really sweet and really, I just love seeing that.
I do too.
Right.
So we're going to give you the lowdown on where tea shows up in the Practical Magic series. It becomes quite like the big character, starting in Rules of Magic, which is Alice Hoffman's second book in the series, right?
They don't write about tea too much in the first book?
I don't think they, as far as courage and caution, they don't mention those.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll get to the courage and caution stuff, but they don't have anything in the movie either.
There's a couple little things that I pulled out.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that a little bit once we get to them. So we're going to start off with just the book mentions. And once we get to the little pockets where I want to talk about the movie, I'll let you know then. All right. So this is starting on page 12 in the first book, Practical Magic. And it says, occasionally someone might appear who wanted red pepper tea for a persnickety stomach or butterfly weed for nerves, but every woman in town knew what the aunt's real business was. Their specialty was love. The next mention is on page 13. It says, once someone had made the decision to come to the back door, she was more than ready to drink pennyroyal tea prepared with ingredients that couldn't even be spoken aloud, which would surely bring on a bleeding that night. So interesting about the pennyroyal tea. Just for a little context, there is actually a Nirvana song called Pennyroyal Tea. Have you ever heard that song?
I think we talked about this in another episode.
We might have. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we talked.
Yeah, okay. I have not heard the song.
Yeah, but apparently the Nirvana song is in reference to opioid addiction. But the reference to bringing on a bleeding in this excerpt from the book is because pennyroyal tea is known to naturally induce abortion. It is made from boiling the leaves of the plant Mentha pyligium, or otherwise known as pennyroyal.
Mentha pyligium. Pennyroyal is so much better.
Yeah, let's just go with pennyroyal.
Isn't that crazy how many, and we're gonna see more in this episode, how many abortive herbs there are? So be careful.
Mugwort's another one, I think, right?
Mugwort's another one, yeah.
Yeah, and clary sage. I don't know if clary sage is an abortive herb, but I do know that you shouldn't take it if you are pregnant. It's supposed to induce labor.
You know you're not supposed to have tarragon if you're pregnant?
Really?
Pergananant?
No.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Why do y'all have how do you eat anything when you have a baby in you?
Well, you don't. You starve for 9 months.
Can I segue real quick about like the pregnancy thing? Guys, I started reading Alice Hoffman's The Dove Keepers and I'm shook. I'm only on chapter 10.
Yeah, you texted me like you need to read this now.
This book is shaking my spirit. It's so good. But they have a birthing scenario scene and she has afterbirth mention and the planting it outside. And for specific reasons, it takes place in the Jewish faith.
Okay.
And it's so good. God damn, it's so good. So I recommend it.
Was our research accurate as far as the afterbirth rites?
Yes.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
gonna have to read that. Now I'm intrigued.
I love it so far. Really good.
All right. Okay. All right. Back to practical magic. So, page 39. It says, into his jacket pocket, referring to Michael, they slipped the foot of a rabbit they had once caught eating their lettuce. And they is referring to the aunts. And we think the rabbit is Maggie. The rabbit's foot,
Yes.
right? We think it's Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
They mixed rosemary into his breakfast cereal, lavender into his nightly cup of tea. Still, they heard the beetle in the dining room. And this was in the reference to the aunts trying random remedies to deter the curse from Michael. But we know that doesn't work.
You throw it all at the wall and something's got to stick, right?
But it doesn't work. It doesn't.
It doesn't work.
That product doesn't work. Page 24. Oh, we went from 39. We went from page 39 and now it's jumping all the way to 240. There really weren't that many mentions in this book.
They were busy.
Oh yeah, they were busy doing other things. All right, so page 240. She, referring to Jillian, wouldn't bother to look in her rearview mirror, not for 1 minute, not once. And that's the difference. It's simple and it's plain. The person that's here now isn't going anywhere, except into the kitchen to fix her nieces some chamomile tea to settle their nerves. Do you think that's what she's drinking in that scene in the movie?
I would think maybe like peppermint tea. Isn't like mint good for headaches?
Yeah.
Because aren't they both hungover as fuck?
Yeah. Is that why Sally's like, Anton or Kylie, can you just go out and get me some mint from the garden before your bus gets here?
Yeah. Maybe she only had enough to make a cup for Jillian and she didn't have enough for herself.
Yeah. Page 245. This is a flashback to when Jillian was young and cut her hair. It says, "Oh, who cares?" Jillian said. "It'll grow back." But her hair never grew long again. It wouldn't reach past her shoulders. Jillian washed it with rosemary, with violets and rose petals, and even ginseng tea. None of it did any good. "That's what you get," Sally announced. "That's where greed will take you." I looked a little bit into this ginseng thing. So ginseng actually exhibits therapeutic potential for hair growth, and it prevents hair loss by preventing the apoptosis of dermal follicle papillus cells.
Can I buy a vowel? Holy shit.
And it's supposed to boost hair growth as well. So ginseng tea contains antioxidants and has antibacterial and antifungal properties that make your hair longer, supposedly. Take a tablespoon of coconut oil and add ginseng tea in it. Mix it well, apply it on your hair and scalp. Massage your scalp for about 5 minutes and then leave it on for about an hour or so.
Oh, I want to try that.
So yeah, try it out. That is from herzendoggy.com, and we'll link that down below so you can check out the whole article. I'm sure there's other remedies and stuff you could try as well. This is the last mention in the Practical Magic first book, and this is on page 266. It says, "Sally has brought a pot of mint tea to the table, along with a chipped cup her daughters gave her one Mother's Day, which has always been her favorite." It says, "Sally can't drink coffee anymore. The scent of it conjures Gary up so completely she could have sworn he was sitting at the table when Jillian was pouring water through the filter this morning." So she can't drink coffee anymore because she's afraid that it might stir Gary up? Why can't she?
No, I think this is after he leaves and she just doesn't want to remember him, because I think when he shows up, she offers to make him a cup of coffee.
Mhm.
And isn't that what triggers him to start crying because it reminds him of his grandfather?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. So real quick, I want to revert back to episode 5, our Sally character analysis episode, when we were speculating on whether or not she was a coffee or tea drinker.
Mm-hmm.
So in the movie, there's 2 different scenes in which Sally is drinking a hot beverage. The first time is when she's writing the letter to Jillian. I want to point out that mug that she's drinking from in this scene. Is it not the gaudiest, ugliest mug you'd ever seen, but it looks like something a child would have made in like an art class or like a pottery studio or something like that?
It's something a parent would keep because their kid made it. Yeah.
So that's definitely that Mother's Day gift that the book was referring to. I think that aligns with the book.
I never put those together.
Yeah. It's something so subtle though. Like the first book was out before the movie was made, right? So the more we're analyzing these passages in the book, I think the more intrigued I am finding these little nuances and Easter eggs that, the writers, the set designers and props department, they included that in the movie because it's that little tidbit from the book. They pulled it out. Little titty bitty from the book. They pulled it out and they included it. And it's just amazing how much they paid attention to detail.
Yes.
I did look to see if the mug in the movie was chipped. It didn't look like it was. But the second time we see her with a hot beverage was when Gary comes into the Verbena apothecary shop to interview Carla, and Dwight comes in to complain about the product not working, blah, blah, blah. We see her beverage. It looks very dark. we were speculating in the character analysis episode, was that coffee? Was it tea? But this passage in the book suggests and confirms that maybe perhaps it was tea, since she can't really drink coffee anymore. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then we'll scoot over to Rules of Magic, and that's Alice Hoffman's second book. All right. So in Rules of Magic, tea pops up the first time on page 25, and it starts off with Isabel. Be brief, Isabel always said. And because of her stern expression, they always were. The price for a cure might be as low as half a dozen eggs or as high as a diamond ring, depending on the circumstances. A token payment was fine in exchange for horseradish and cayenne for coughs, dill seeds to disperse hiccups, fever tea to nip flu in the bud, or frustration tea to soothe sleepless nights for a mother of a wayward son. And then on page 29, Sheed, talking about Jet, filled the thermos with frustration tea from a recipe she found in Aunt Isabel's kitchen. Anyone partaking of this drink would be granted good humor and cheerfulness, attributes of which Jet believed Franny was sorely in need. Then on page 67 to 68, when Franny finished packing and went downstairs, Isabel was waiting for her with 2 fresh pots of tea. Franny grinned. She knew this was a test. It was likely Vincent and Jet had already been assessed in the same manner, but Franny had always excelled at such things. She wasn't afraid to make a choice. Let's see what you'll have, their aunt said. Courage or caution? Courage, thank you. Isabel poured a cup of an earthy, fragrant mixture. It contains all herbs you've tended this summer. Franny finished 1 cup and asked for another. As it turned out, she was desperately thirsty. Her aunt poured from the second pot. Isn't that caution? Franny asked. Oh, they're both the same. You were never going to choose caution. Oh, she makes 2 pots of courage. I thought she made a pot of each. And that's why we're like, aren't they the same? Remember, we were like, aren't they the same thing? Take my advice. Don't try to hide who you are, Franny. Always keep that in mind. Or I'll be turned into a rabbit, Franny quipped. Isabel went to embrace her favorite niece, or you'll be very unhappy.
Okay, yeah. I also thought I thought courage and caution were actually the same thing, just she was trying to trick her.
Pull the old switcheroo.
Yeah.
Okay. On page 69, Franny walked on ahead with Vincent taking his arm, discussing the test with brews of tea. What did you choose, courage or caution? Is that even a question? Vincent had his guitar slung over his shoulder. He'd had more girlfriends than he could count this summer, yet didn't feel the need to say goodbye to a single one. Caution is for other people, Franny, not us. Page 94, and this is after the siblings, Jet, Franny, and Vincent, perform like a candle drawing, a love drawing spell, and Halen, who is Franny's love interest, shows up at the door. You didn't know it was going to be him, Vincent smirked as he headed out. He didn't need the clairvoyant tea Aunt Isabel concocted out of mugwort, thyme, yarrow, and rosemary. He didn't need Jet's empathy or Franny's curiosity. This one was obvious. And on page 160, Franny berated the local plumber. If he would stop the pipe...
Bartered with.
Berated.
You plumber!
Franny bartered with the local plumber. If he would stop the pipes from leaking, they would dispose of his wife's boyfriend. It was easy enough to do with a little bit of be true to me tea. For the carpenter who built shelves, the sisters concocted a hex breaker composed of salt, coconut oil, lavender, lemon juice, lemon verbena. If he gave the mixture to the ex-client who was bad-mouthing him, the slander would fall silent. On page 161, they now had the recipe for fever tea composed of cinnamon, bayberry, ginger, thyme, and marjoram. And for frustration tea, the combination of chamomile, hyssop, raspberry leaf, and rosemary, which Jet brewed for her sister in the morning so that the day would go smoothly. Aunt Isabel refused to hand over the formula for courage tea. That, she said, was one recipe you had to discover for yourself. And then on page 229, this is when Jet takes the bus up to Massachusetts and goes to visit Levi's grave. She sees the Reverend, then runs to Aunt Isabel's house, trying to run away from him.
Yeah.
She begs Aunt Isabel to get rid of the memories of Levi, but Aunt Isabel refuses, citing that Jet wouldn't be who she is if she forgot about Levi. She then admits to Aunt Isabel that she let Franny believe that she drank the courage tea. Aunt Isabel flips it and reverses it, and admits that she did give Jet the courage tea to drink. So the passage goes like this. When the tea was brewed, they both sat down and had a cup. Taste familiar? Isabel asked. It's what I had before. You asked for caution, but I gave you this. It was what you needed, and it is what you have. Jet laughed and drank the rest of the tea. Was this what courage felt like? Once you forget a piece of your past, you forget it all. That's not what you want, dear. Jet had packed her a lunch, a tomato sandwich, a green apple, and a thermos of Travel Well tea composed of orange peel, black tea, mint, and rosemary. Page 312 to 313. The next week was sunny and dry, and on Sunday, Jet went back to the cemetery. She wore boots and a sweater and woolen slacks. She had a cough, and she had a cup of licorice tea before she left the house that would quiet it. She didn't want Levi's father to worry. 354, this is when Regina receiving Vincent's package from Paris. Regina is Vincent's granddaughter? They had the macaroons and fragrant tea that always made them feel especially brave. Always choose courage, Regina told her girls. She wasn't worried about Jillian, who loved to walk on a tightrope set up between the trees, but cautious Sally was another story. Don't live a little, Regina would whisper to her older daughter when she would tuck her in at night. Live a lot. Then on 366, all the same, there were some things they needed to learn. Do not drink milk after a thunderstorm, for it will certainly be sour. Always leave out seeds for the birds when the first snow falls. Wash your hair with rosemary. Drink lavender tea when you cannot sleep. Know that the only remedy for love is to love more. And I think that's how the book ends. I think that's like the last line of the book.
Didn't you just put rosemary in your hair today or something?
Yes, you had me hooked on. I'm like, I need to grow the hair back, and I made rosemary oil and I was putting it in my hair, but I just started putting it like all over myself.
Okay, we just need to clarify for our listeners. I did not tell Kristina that she has to grow her hair back. I just told her that rosemary oil is good to. Yes, if that's what you're trying to do.
Yes,
Kristina, you made it sound like I was like, Kristina, you need to grow your hair.
Cue ball. You gotta grow some hair.
You are bald as fuck, girl.
No, Justina had the recommendation of making the rosemary oil because I was complaining that my hair was thinning.
I don't know. I've never actually tried it. That's what I've heard works. So let me know how it goes. If you do it consistently enough. I'm wondering, well, it's supposed to stimulate your hair follicles. And then going back to that thing you read about the licorice tea, because Jet had a cough. Licorice is supposed to, it's like an expectorant. It's supposed to loosen up your mucus. So I think, what is it, traditional medicinals? Something like that. They make a really good throat coat tea.
Oh, yeah. Does it have licorice in it?
Yeah, I think that has licorice in it. And then they also make a gypsy cold care, which I think also has licorice in it.
I love that one.
Isn't it so good. Yeah, yeah. Best tea brand, hands down.
Yeah, that gypsy cold carrot. Now you used to, well, at least in California, you could get it in its own box. Here, I can't find it in its own box, but it comes in like a sampler pack.
Okay, you could probably find it on Amazon. So now we're moving on to magic lessons, which is Maria's backstory. There were 86 matches for the word tea in this book. That's a lot. Yeah. Kristina did the research for this book, so you're only taking those that aren't redundant.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if it was mentioned in the other two books, then I kind of left it out.
All right, so it starts on page 8, and this says, as for Hannah, she'd had a cup of tea on that day, made of a mixture she had blended to give herself courage during these dreadful times when a woman couldn't walk down the street without fear of being accused of misdoings, especially if a book was found in her belongings, or if she could read and write her own name. I love that line where it says she made a mixture of a blend that she blended herself to give herself courage. So that must have been the origin of the courage tea.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking Hannah passed it down. So page 13, it says, they sat in the light of a lantern and drank cups of courage tea, a blend of currants, spices, and thyme, made for protection and healing, a mixture that needed to steep for a long time. It was an elixir that made it clear one should never hide who one was. That was the first step toward courage. And in this way, magic began. I had a little note here, but going off of what you were saying before, how she did actually, like, courage and caution are actually two different teas. She just made 2 pots of the courage tea and tricked her.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought that courage and caution were the same tea, but she just called it caution to trick her.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, so that's not the case. Courage and caution are actually 2 different kinds of teas. So here I said, wouldn't it be safe to say that caution tea is also a blend of currants, spices, and thyme? Because in the previous book, Rules of Magic, Aunt Isabel tricks Jet and reveals that courage and caution tea are the same thing, but they're not. They're not the same thing. She just pulled a fast one on her. Right? Yeah. All right. So me and you both kind of misunderstood that, but now I think we understand it now.
It only took us like the 3rd time reading the book and reading it aloud to each other.
Right. And also what I noticed, I did a search on caution tea in this book. It only has 2 mentions, and neither mention reveals a recipe for the caution tea. So between all the books, I don't think there's actually a recipe given for the caution tea, whereas the courage tea there is.
Okay.
So I was like, why would they give a recipe for the courage tea, but not the caution tea?
Because you want to always choose courage.
You're absolutely right. But like, I was like, now I'm curious what's in the caution tea. I want to know. So page 19, it says, for love, boil yarrow into a tea, prick the third finger of your hand, add 3 drops of your blood, and give to your beloved. Which is interesting because in the same book, in the same section, doesn't she put yarrow into the poison garden? She lumps it. She lumps it with the poisonous herbs, and now she's saying to boil it in a love tea. But later on, we also find out that she says the same thing about Lily of the Valley. So we're going to talk about that too. But there's some questionable ingredients in some of these teas.
Do your research.
Exactly. Do your research, everybody. Okay, so page 25, for health. Wash your hands with lye soap before treating the ill person. Horehound boiled into a syrup for coughs. Tea of wild onions and lobelia to soothe. Bee balm for a restful sleep. Vinegar elixirs to stop nosebleeds. Eat raw garlic every day in a cup of hot water with lemon and honey. For asthma, drink chamomile tea. I heard chamomile tea wasn't good to drink if you had any kind of asthmatic. Yeah, I heard for asthma because chamomile is in the ragweed family. And I am highly allergic to ragweed. So when I went to the doctor, remember I told you I kind of had the same spiel as you when you were coughing for 3 months straight? I had the same type of deal a few years ago. And I went to the doctor and they did tests and they, they ran, I think, like an allergy panel or whatever. They told me I was asthmatic. I was like, I was never diagnosed with it as a child. I mean, maybe things change when you're an adult, but they told me things to stay away from. And chamomile tea was one of those things because it's supposed to trigger asthma.
You're so right.
This is inaccurate. The product doesn't work.
The product doesn't work. It says it can make asthma worse. Pregnant women should avoid chamomile also for risk of miscarriage. If you're allergic to asters, daisies, chrysanthemums, or ragweed, you may also be allergic to chamomile.
There you go.
Be careful out there.
There you go. So that just goes to show you guys, not all of these remedies in these books are 100% accurate. It's kind of like AI. Like, you type in a thing in AI and it just gives you some bananas that you're like, is this even accurate?
You're like, no, I wanted oranges, not bananas.
So I mean, I'm sure Alice did a lot of research in a lot of different areas, but some of these things are a little off. So just know that and just do your research.
Yes.
Don't want to trigger anybody's allergies.
Nope.
And then it says for chills, ginger root tea and licorice root gathered from the riverside for chest pain. That's on page 25. Page 58 for sea travel, hyssop tea will rid a man of worms.
Nasty.
Okay. Then we have page 58. Maria knew to use spirits of turpentine to prevent lockjaw, salt and molasses for a salve used on deep cuts that might otherwise poison a man's blood, black or green tea steeped with the boiling milk and nutmeg for dysentery.
I have a weird fear of getting lockjaw from like scratching myself. Can't you get it from like tetanus? And I've always had trouble getting scratched and scraped up, and I'm like, oh god, can you imagine having lockjaw? That's just terrifying.
I've had like jaw issues because I had wisdom teeth until pretty late. Like, you're supposed to get those shits removed as a late teenager. My wisdom teeth didn't even come in until I was in my like mid to late 20s. I'm acting like I'm so old, but like getting your wisdom teeth removed at 30 years old is old to get.
Agonizing, I'm sure.
Exactly. Oh yeah, so then my jaw used to lock up sometimes because my wisdom teeth would prevent my jaw from closing properly.
Snapping in place.
Yeah, I had to snap it back in place like a
snack. Slitherous snack.
I haven't had too many jaw problems since those shits got removed. So the worst pain I've ever been in, the best decision I've ever. So I don't miss those fucks. Bye.
Don't you have them? Didn't you say you kept them?
Yeah, they're somewhere. I don't know. They got lost in the move.
Dude, our resident nurse Caitlin was cracking me up. There's a bonus thing on our Patreon where she is answering extra questions, and she's like,
about the placenta.
And then about the placenta, and then she's like, you guys got going on like whether or not keeping teeth. Keeping your placenta is like keeping your teeth. It was just cracking me up to hear somebody else reiterate it.
Yeah. I guess we do. Weird. I guess we do talk about some crazy ass shit that, like, we talk about it, and then we leave the podcast and we leave the editing room, and then we completely forget about all the whack ass shit we bring up on these episodes. So thanks, guys, for reiterating and bringing those things back up. Okay, so on page 69, the Manchester sisters, Katie and Susanna, had worked off their debt. and had then been free to marry the first men who came along. Wretched suitors Maria warned them to deny. She looked into the sisters' tea leaves and into their palms and told them to wait. There would be other men to choose from. Or perhaps it might be better to set off on their own lives. The sisters hadn't listened, and they'd married two silent, gloomy brothers. This is the first time we're seeing tea leaves used as a means of divination in these books, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. This goes into her whole trip to the islands. This is the,
Yes.
I guess, the Caribbean islands. This is pronounced Curacao. So this is pages 74 to 75, and these are a bunch of different teas used from the all of the, I guess, herbs and fruits and vegetables or whatever she found that are native to the islands there. So the first one is soursop tea, and that's made from a glossy green tree with yellow-green flowers, which cures insomnia, infections, and keeps away lice. So soursop tea is an herbal tea that is made from the leaves of the soursop fruit tree. The fruit and leaves contain antioxidants such as flavonoids, phytosterols, and tannins. Soursop tea is also called graviola tea and is rumored to have significant powers to prevent or treat cancer. Graviola. Next up is mampuritu, is a slender weed for tea to cure nausea and cramps. The name mampuritu and its derivatives are often quoted as meaning skunk in Spanish. Mampuritu is considered locally to be native to Curacao and Bonaire and is highly valued there as a medicinal tea. All right, so the soursop tea source is from verywellfit.com and the Mampuritu source is from massaamerica.food.blog. We'll link all of these sources down below so you guys can read up a little more on the origins of these teas. The next one is Kleistubom, which is a creeping weed with an extract helpful to ease prickly heat. What's prickly heat?
I don't know. This is from the book. That was taken from the book.
All right. Okay. Might be another AI generated thing that Alice found in her research. Next is lemon. I guess this is like the island way to say lemongrass. It's spelled Lamoengras for fever. So lemongrass for fever, or Lamoengras. That's how it's spelled. Next we have caraway, which cures the bites of poisonous scorpions and centipedes. We have wandu, which helps with an easy delivery of a baby, also good for the blood and improves memory and strength. And then this is a big one in the book, because this is the one that Maria uses on Samuel Diaz when he has the breakbone fever, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a bit. The tawa tea, which is a tea made from the hairy plant found in the grassland, a cure for dengue fever also known as breakbone fever, which stops bleeding inside the body. Tawa, also known as Euphorbia hirta. It's also called gatas because of the healing properties of its milky juice. It contains triterpenes and phytosterols, tannins, and polyphenols and flavonoids. This herb has gained widespread attention because of its ability to help patients recover from dengue. So yeah, there's a lot of different teas that she made use of during her time in the islands, and I believe she wrote all of these in her grimoire, right? She jotted all of this stuff down and kept notes and tabs on everything she's experienced, all these new herbs and stuff she was exposed to during her time there. So she kind of took that all with her, and we kind of learn a little bit more about this. The tipsy cake, right? That's the recipe was from the islands. They brought it.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So when we watch the movie and we see Aunt Jet and Francis making their midnight margaritas, and they're saying all of those like Barbados lime and all of those things that
sailor salt,
seemingly having to do with the islands, and you're like, what does this have to do with the islands? Well, Alice made the connection and kind of connected the dots for us and kind of made a whole excerpt of this book taking place in the islands. So we see the origins of the Owens family ancestors and how they brought that information from the islands with the grimoire to the States when Maria finally found her place in Essex, Massachusetts. So I just thought that was like a cool connection, how she was able to connect all of that. Yeah, like what's it have to do with the islands? Oh, well, here you go. Here's a whole section on the book about it. Page 101, it says, a ship was a dreadful place to be ill, suffocating in the cabin, freezing and damp on deck, Maria fed Diaz a spoonful of tawa tea every hour. And it also says she made this out of the papaya leaves, which she ground into a tincture for him to drink. Also, page 101. She continued to feed him the tea from the weeds that he had complained about at first, but now he drank the brew willingly, no matter how bitter. He was feeling stronger in a matter of days. He had faith in Maria, a mad, joyous rush of feeling which often made him laugh out loud, for at last the fever was breaking, and then one day the pain eased, the hammer stopped, and he was no longer glass. So this is on pages 122 to 123. It says, those who asked for Be True to Me tea for straying husbands, still others came for a remedy of garlic, salt, and rosemary, the most ancient spell to cast away evil. Many wanted Maria's teas, concocted late at night by lantern light. Fever tea was composed of bayberry, ginger, cinnamon, thyme, and marjoram. Frustration tea was made of chamomile, hyssop, raspberry leaf, and rosemary. Courage tea was the great favorite, Hannah's old recipe, and pots of it were served day after day. And then this is on page 123. When Mrs. Henry looked at Maria, she saw a healer, not a witch, and she would always be grateful for the lily of the valley tea Maria had used to stop the older woman's heart from fluttering one night when she fell faint. Mrs. Henry swore she would surely be in her grave, if not for that curative. She opened her heart to Maria and her charming little girl, and was happy to share her own cures.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this in our book club because this was a portion that we were reading in the last bit. And I had always heard growing up, like, lilies were poisonous, but there's so many of them that maybe not all were poisonous. I didn't know, so I wanted to dig a little deeper. So lily of the valley, the Convallaria Magalius, is poisonous, okay? So it contains chemical called toxic cardiac glycosides, which are poisonous. And the cardiac glycosides in lily of the valley affect the heart. So yes, like I guess as a tea, maybe it could have this effect on like a fluttering heart. But these chemicals can cause dangerous irregular heartbeats, and people who use lily of the valley for heart problems, including heart failure, irregular heartbeat, and other conditions. But there's no like scientific evidence to support the uses of this tea for those problems. So it sounds to me unsafe.
Oh yeah.
So that was off of WebMD. And then another source, rxlist.com, said that lily of the valley is used for heart problems, including heart failure and irregular heartbeat. It's also used for urinary tract infections, kidney stones, weak contractions in labor, epilepsy, fluid retention, strokes, and resulting paralysis, eye infections, conjunctivitis, and leprosy. Is leprosy still a thing?
In other countries.
It contains substances that have active effect on the heart muscles. It can affect contractions, heart rate, and excitability. Lily of the Valley might be safe for most people when it's used under the proper medical supervision, but it is unsafe when used for like self-medication. So since Lily of the Valley tea can affect the heart and other systems, the dose must be carefully chosen and the side effects checked by healthcare professionals. I'm sure you like want somebody on standby. You know, if that is the route you really want to go, more power to you, but have a doctor like in the room with you. Right. If you swallow Lily of the Valley accidentally, get medical treatment right away. Lily of the Valley can cause side effects such as nausea, vomiting, abnormal heart rhythm, headache, decreased consciousness and responsiveness, and visual color disturbances. I would just say, consult your doctor and refer to our disclaimer, because that's heavy stuff. That's really a heavy duty hitter.
100%. I would not fuck with that after reading that.
Yeah.
So again, take all of the remedies that you find in these books with a grain of salt. Do your research. Page 175. Frustration tea for granting good cheer. Good for those who grieve. Caution tea for wild children, such as boys who carry shotguns or dream of running off to sea. Fever tea to nip high temperatures in the bud. Made of cinnamon, bayberry, ginger, thyme, and marjoram. Courage tea as an antidote for fear, grief, and facing the world's trials. 1 cup reminds you to always be who you are. Page 179. Martha didn't waste her funds on expensive coffee beans or tea when they were homegrown substitutes like Liberty tea, made from loosestrife or a mixture of strawberry, currant, and sage. And this is in reference to when Martha Chase was stalking Maria and Faith in that country store because she wanted to kidnap. Yeah, she wanted to kidnap Faith. Yeah, what a fucking weirdo. So I wanted to chat a bit about loosestrife.
I've never heard of it.
Because that's mentioned as one of the ingredients in this Liberty tea.
Okay.
I had never heard of it before either. Apparently there is some debate on whether or not this is poisonous.
Oh.
Yeah. So first a bit on where it gets its name. So loosestrife, properly belonging to members of the unrelated genus Lysimachia, derives from the folk belief that branches of these flowers calm fractious teams of oxen by driving away tormenting insects, thus, quote, loosing or dissolving strife between the dowdy animals.
What? That's cool.
Right? So that's where it gets its name. As far as the ingestion goes, according to picturethisai.com, which, by the way, this is an awesome phone app, Picture This, which helps you identify plants simply just by taking a photo of the plant with your phone. The AI generates a whole profile of the plant and tells you if it's dangerous, if it's toxic, what it's used for, all that stuff. So Picture This says that purple loosestrife is more dangerous for the environment than it is for humans. According to nh.gov, purple loosestrife negatively affects both wildlife and agriculture. It displaces and replaces native flora and fauna, eliminating food, nesting, and shelter for wildlife. Purple loosestrife forms a single species stand that no bird, mammal, or fish depends upon, and germinates faster than many native wetland species. And that's from des.nh.gov. Anyway, back to the Picture This app. Some of the data shows that this is a toxic plant. It has a low toxicity, though it normally will not be ingested by mistake. It is harmful to the body if ingested. If discomfort occurs after ingestion, please seek medical advice. And lastly, according to dnr.state.mn.us, which is the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, they say purple loosestrife was sold and planted for decades as a decorative ornamental plant. However, due to its negative impacts on native plants and its ability to escape from cultivation, purple loosestrife is now illegal to sell in most states. So it's very detrimental to wildlife and, ecosystems. So yeah, no go on the loosestrife as far as growing it. We'll talk a little bit more in depth on Liberty tea a little later, but I just wanted to point out that this description of Liberty tea is a bit different than what Alice says Liberty tea is later on. Because later on we learn that it's a raspberry tea and there's no mention on the addition of loosestrife in the later mention of the Liberty tea.
I think Liberty tea, it's Liberty teas. I think there were quite a few different options.
Okay.
I'd never heard of this plant, but it's really pretty. It's like super pretty. No wonder they used it for decoration.
It's very, very pretty. It's a shame that it sucks for, nothing. It basically wipes out ecosystems. So
wow.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about the Liberty teas later on. Page 217, it says, there was a yard in which to grow herbs, including tall, plumy sage and aromatic rosemary, along with feverfew and wormwood and currant bushes, whose young leaves made a fragrant mixture when lemon zest and rosemary were added for Maria's travel well tea that helped to prevent scurvy. Page 229, she went to collect the dried tawa leaves that were stored in her herb cabinet so that she might fix a pot of the curative tea, and when she returned, Samuel was already asleep. And on page 232, Maria threw Abraham a look. That won't happen, she assured him, brewing herself a cup of release me tea, a mixture that loosen love's hold on a person, especially when combined with bitters and fresh radish roots. So for context, Abraham is Samuel Diaz's father, who was living with them in New York, and he wanted Samuel to come live with them and plant his roots, but Maria insists to let Samuel be who he is, a man who lives on the sea, because we saw Samuel starting to become a little more like earthy, like it said how he loved digging his hands in the dirt, and he loved planting his trees and all that stuff.
He would have changed in an instant, which is not what you want in a person, but like he loved her so much he would have been glad to have stayed on land.
Yeah, 100%. And she's like, nah, he's good out there. It's fine. I'm fine.
Drama.
Didn't you just want to smack her toward the end of that book? Yeah, like what the fuck is wrong with you? He loves you. Be nice. Anyway, page 245 to 246. When she wasn't reading, she was talking to herself, reciting recipes to make certain she wouldn't forget them. Be True to Me tea, a boon for lovers. Travel well tea, a tonic for good health on a journey. Frustration tea, which granted good humor and cheer even on the outskirts of Kings County. Clairvoyant tea, concocted from mugwort and rosemary and anise, which helped the drinker see beyond the curtain of the here and now. Ooh, I like that. The curtain of the here and now. And Faith's favorite, courage tea, which provided bravery and grit and was made of vanilla and currants and thyme. Every time Faith recited a remedy, she felt a thrill, as if she were unlocking a door to her true self. Page 248. Fever tea to nip high temperatures in the bud, made of cinnamon, bayberry, ginger, thyme, and marjoram. Page 296. Maria avoided love as best as she could, but when women came crying, when they felt they had been destroyed, she gave in. The hue of henna that had been mixed with lime and roses, the tea boiled and simmered overnight, would reflect the strength of a woman's love. The deeper the color, the more genuine the love. Page 307. Practitioners of the nameless art were held in high regard when it came to their talents and their knowledge of curative tonics, seeds to induce sleep or cure insomnia, packets of dry lavender, and rose hips for teas that would calm nerves. Page 331. Tea was dear and often unavailable, and so Faith carried her own courage tea. She placed a tarnished silver coin on the table. She could see the serving girl's hunger as well as a silence she had been trained for. The girl was being mistreated on a regular basis. Across the room, the owner of the tavern was watching them with a lazy eye. He had the nerve to nod at fate. Page 341 to 342. Maria thought over the minister's writings as she soaked clean rags in cold water and vinegar to bring down the girl's fever, and then asked the cook to begin a fishbone broth. She boiled water to make tawa tea for her patient and courage tea for herself. There was a reason fate had led her here, and she wished to be strong enough not to back down from what could come next. 343 to 344. He was ill at ease and insisted on tasting the tea Maria was feeding the child. Once he had, the bitterness of the drink worried him. Will this not make her more ill? He asked. I know breakbone fever, and you either will trust me to do my best, or I can assure you your girl will not live. This is like, she gives me such Claire vibes from Outlander.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the minister sat beside Maria and watched the candle flicker. He had one child, and Maria knew what that was like. You carried your heart in your hand. So on page 346, she's still trying to cure the young girl. It says wet washcloths with apple cider vinegar, basil tea with ginger, fishbone broth, all simple enough, but most important was the use of the tawa tea, there it is again, which she would be happy to supply if he came upon more patients with the disease.
Oh, so did she leave that stuff with him?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Talking about apple cider vinegar, I don't know if you would call it a tonic. And I told you that I had the kidney stones that one time.
Mm-hmm.
I think apple cider vinegar helped dissolve them. I would make like a hot cup of water, put in like 2 little shots of apple cider, like 2 little capfuls of the apple cider vinegar. I would mix it with ginger, cinnamon, honey, lemon, and I would just sip on that. And I'm pretty sure it dissolved my kidney stones because the doctor gave me a little like a pop filter. It gave me a little funnel to pee in to catch my stone, and nothing ever came out, and I stopped being in pain. So I'm pretty sure that shit worked.
Dude, apple cider vinegar is just like it's a cure-all for it. It does everything. Go listen to our apple episode if you want to know more about it.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You said you just shoot it. I take the little supplements, which I need to start taking more of because it's good for digestion too. I just forget to take that shit.
Yeah. Or, if you want to creep it into your diet in other ways, it's great to put in salads.
Just apple cider vinegar on lettuce?
Well, so you mix your salad, you put your greens, you put your veggies, whatever you want to put in there. I do 2 little capfuls of the apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
Little salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Olive oil. Mix that shit up. It's just like a white vinegar, except
okay. It just has a little more flavor.
Yeah, it's got a little more of that tang, the appley tang.
Okay.
It's really good.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, apple cider vinegar, great to use in teas if you're trying to.
Done it. I've only done like is it considered a tea if the water is hot, but if that concoction is pretty much the same. It's the apple cider vinegar, cayenne, honey, and lemon.
Yeah,
is that considered a tea?
I would guess so because it's hot water. I mean, you're
or an
not
infusion.
I mean, you're not steeping actual tea leaves,
right?
I don't know. I consider anything hot and like steeped, like put in water, I consider that a tea. So on page 352, this kind of confirms what we were just speculating. It says, that afternoon, she served the doctor a cup of fall out of love tea made of ginger, honey, and vinegar.
Okay.
So those were the only things in the tea, and they still called it tea.
Okay.
So I guess
we know what we're talking about.
It was one recipe that worked every time. Once they reached Boston, it was over and done between them. Page 356. Faith poured him, talking about John Hathorne, her father, right? A cup of tell the truth tea. She spilled a few drops on the tabletop. He noticed her then. Who is this? He asked his wife. A godsend, Ruth responded. Ruth is John Hathorne's wife.
Who is like 16 years old.
Yeah. She's super young. Creepy, right?
Creep.
So she calls Faith Jane. Is that the name that Faith was going by?
Her alias. Yeah.
I think she was trying to hide her actual identity, so she referred to herself as Jane. So Ruth responds, Jane, she's been here for weeks. She can help me with everything. She's a wonderful baker and very knowledgeable about cooking. She even makes her own tea. The tea supplied from England was so expensive, many people drank raspberry tea, called Liberty tea, which was not half as good as Faith's mixtures. So here's where we're going to deep dive a little more on the Liberty tea, and Kristina's going to tell us about those real quick.
I had first heard of this on the Wish Bitch Amateur Hour on their goldenrod episode, because goldenrod was also an ingredient used in the Liberty teas. Like, the fucking colonists just took Native American plants and medicinal herbs and we called it Liberty tea. But we're going to talk Liberty tea real quick. So after the Boston Tea Party in 1773, colonists were faced with a bit of a problem. They had this strong addiction to tea, but they couldn't drink King George's tea anymore. The colonial women tried using some herbs from their own country, like Labrador tea, which was made from an herb called red root bush, to brew their own teas.
Does the Labrador tea taste like dogs?
It tastes like dog shit. This herb was found growing wild along riverbanks and was used by Native Americans for both medicinal and pleasure purposes. So again, appropriating, relabeling, rebranding, remarketing.
Right.
Goddamn colonists.
So question, would you consider Maria appropriating all the stuff that she brought back with the grimoire? Because she took all that stuff from the native land and then...
Yeah, that's a sticky subject.
It is a sticky subject. I think she was just taking what she learned and tried to apply it to her own practice. But I mean, maybe other people might deem that as appropriation. I don't know.
I think she had spent time in that country and like got to know the people and honored their ways. Like, she spent time with Joni, the young girl's grandmother or aunt. I think she pays respect to the ways, whereas a lot of colonial people did not.
There's definitely a huge difference.
And what is mentioned in the book as far as raspberry leaf tea, this was a popular choice, and one of the patriots, I guess at the time, even claimed it was as good as any other tea and much healthier in the long run. Promoting these new teas wasn't always easy. Some people who were advocating for the boycott of the English teas actually spread rumors that it was poisonous and it could cause all sorts of physical problems, from upset stomachs to serious nervous disorders. It was all part of like a public relations battle to convince people to switch to the healthier and more patriotic choice of drinking herbal teas from the native plants that they found in America. So it's interesting to note that journalists at the time played kind of a big role in spreading these like nasty rumors about foreign teas. For example, they claimed that tea was infested with lice and fleas, and that it was made by barefoot Chinese, quote unquote, Chinese pagans stomping on tea leaves with their dirty feet before packing them up for export. So that obviously did not help. So these kind of rumors were meant to discourage people from drinking any foreign tea and promote the use of the natural herbal teas that they were trying to make. Some people also attacked tea addiction from an economic perspective. So I did a little math, which I'm not good at, but thank God for like the conversion calculator online. So one New Yorker argued that regular tea consumption was actually quite expensive, and that if you added up all the costs of the tea itself, plus the sugar, butter, and the fuel to boil the water. In fact, they claimed that every tea drinker was spending a hefty annual sum of £7 sterling just on tea. So how much is 1 pound worth we'll say 1776. Okay. 1 pound in 1776 it's about 159 pounds and 99 pence. I don't know. 159.99.
You lost me at math.
1 pound in 1776 now is, we'll say, around 160 pounds, worth 160 pounds. And this is 2018, roughly.
Okay.
So let's multiply 159.99 by 7. You're looking at 1,119 pounds and some change. So in US dollars, that's $1,330.85 US. That is crazy.
And that's in a year?
That's annual. Yes.
That's crazy.
And that is
just in
for
tea.
every tea drinker, a single tea drinker.
That's nuts.
So homemakers also took matters into their own hands, scoring their gardens and orchards for herbs and fruits that could be used in their own teas. They called these home brews Liberty teas, and the only limit was to the adventurous spirit of the colonial housewife who tended to her teapot. And I think they also had like, they started dubbing their teapots like Liberty teapots, which whatever. So it's just kind of cool and fascinating to see how like resourceful these women were when it came to finding alternatives to English teas. Again, I wonder how many of them like got sick trying to turn that shit into tea. They turned a variety of plants and herbs, many of which were grown right in their own gardens. The mint family was particularly popular, with spearmint, peppermint, orange bergamot, catnip, and pennyroyal being commonly used. Other popular herbs were raspberry and strawberry leaves, lemon balm, verbena, and wintergreen.
There it is. So you can use pretty much any of those kinds of leaves and consider it Liberty tea. So there's different kinds of Liberty teas. So
it sounds really good though, doesn't it? Like,
oh yeah,
strawberry lemon balm tea.
Do you typically like fruity tea, or do you like more of the I guess more of the herbally teas, or more of like the English breakfast or Earl Grey, like the heavier teas?
I like the fruitier ones. I do.
Yeah.
Like green and black tea kind of they give me a little like blast from the past. The kids I nannied back way before the girls I nannied would drink that all the time. Really? So like the scent like triggers me. But yeah, I like me a fruity. I like me a herbal. But
okay. Yeah. I really love the florally teas.
I do too. Yeah.
I love florals and I guess minty kinds of teas.
Yeah. Just a little bit more. So flower gardens were also a source of flavor and fragrance with blends of linden, elder, red clover, chamomile, violet, and goldenrod. There's the goldenrod, all being used in teas. Bark from the trees like sassafras and willow, as well as seeds from fennel and dill, were also popular. The fruits like dried strawberries, blueberries, apples were also added, sometimes enhanced with rose hips. Dude, do you know how to handle rose hips?
Nah, bro.
I had a couple on my plant and I'm like, what do I do with these? How long are these gonna last?
What do I do with these? No, wait, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. Rose hips, is that part of an actual like rose bush plant, or is rose hips like its own flower?
So what I've found is like when a rose wilts and dies and falls away, at the top of the stem there's like a little bulb, almost like a seed pod. Not on all roses that die, but that's the rose hip, like the fruit of the rose.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess you just make teas with those?
I hear there's a ton of stuff. You can make like rose hip, like facial spray and put it in like skincare and shit. But again, I don't know. This is consult our discllaimer. We don't know what we're talking about.
We'll have to deep dive on the rose hip thing.
Yeah.
Is there more talk of the rose hip in the books? If so, we'll give them its own episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about flavor. Many of these herbs and plants had medicinal properties as well, and they were used for both culinary and medicinal purposes. Herbs like parsley, thyme, marjoram, sage were all commonly used both in cooking and tea making, and even plants like sweet fern, spice bush, and ambrosia found their way into tea kettles. It's pretty amazing to think how much knowledge and creativity these colonial women had when it came to making their own teas. This native infusion was quite popular during the American Revolution as it replaced the highly taxed teas British East India Company. It had many colloquial names such as New Jersey tea.
What?
Why did I do a Southern accent? Can you do that in a Jersey accent?
New Jersey tea.
Thank you. Indian tea, Walpole tea, and red root.
Joyzy tea.
New Jersey tea. That's what Donna drinks.
Donna drinks the tea from New Jersey. You know, we really don't say New Jersey. Whoever comes to New Jersey is like, oh, New Jersey. I just want to fucking smack them. But here I am. I'm like, New Jersey. Jersey tea. All right.
So ironically, homegrown Liberty teas were shipped to England and the rest of Europe as one of America's earliest exports. Tax-free, of course.
Wait a minute. So they came to the States to make these Liberty teas, and then they just ended up shipping them back anyway?
Well, so they didn't want to drink the British tea during the American Revolution. So they were like, we're going to make our own shit. So they made their own shit, and then they sold it back to the English.
They sold it back to the English. This is the biggest fuck you ever.
Right?
That's funny. Oh man.
Thank you for
All
letting
right.
me segue into a little bit of that. I had no idea that the American Revolution to me is like, I don't know anything.
There was a little bit of that in Outlander, a little bit of the.
Oh, I didn't get that far.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch it. And they also do a little stint in the islands. Yeah. Which is why I'm like seeing such a parallel between Maria and Claire.
They start in Europe. They go to the islands, and then they end up in America.
But the only difference is, I'm pretty sure in Outlander, they don't end up in like the Boston area. I think they end up in the South. I think
they're in North Carolina.
They're North Carolina. That's right. Yep, they're more south.
Fraser's Ridge.
So but I still see such a parallel between Maria and Claire.
Agreed.
With the whole healer thing. And Claire, does Claire have a connection to Billy Zane? They're both time hoppers.
Oh fuck.
Oh shit. Are we gonna cross into the Outlander world now too?
That'll be season 3 of Magnolia Street.
Season 3 of Magnolia Street. Anyway, whole spiel about the Liberty Teas, did that have anything to do with the Boston Tea Party?
Yes, exactly. That was exactly it. They didn't want to drink the highly taxed Boston tea anymore, or English tea anymore. So they were like, we're gonna make our own shit.
And then they dumped all that shit off the boat.
Yes.
Me and my dad went to there's a town called Clinton. The little town that I marcoed you from. I was like, how cute is like a little Hallmark town.
Yeah.
There's a shop there and they sell teas. And one of the teas that they sell, it's supposedly a blend that's the exact blend that they dumped off the boat at the Boston Tea Party. I don't remember the name of it. I'm gonna have to ask my dad. Yeah, he bought it just for the historical sake of
how cute. Your dad's cute.
He's like, this is the Boston Tea Party tea. I don't remember if it was that one that he bought that he said was like a smoky kind of taste. Or if that was a different one that he bought. They had like a bunch of different really cool blends. I'll have to, if I can find the name of the brand, I'll see if I can find the link and I'll put it in the show notes, because really cool teas.
Great.
I think I tasted it. It was a little smoky. Like, I don't know if you've ever had like a Lagavulin.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like a
not my thing.
You're not into the smoke stuff.
Yeah. Ardbach. That's a. Ugh.
I kind of like those.
You like those?
Yeah. They just remind me of a campfire.
Maybe if I was having like a cigar with it or a pipe or something. But like...
Basically, if you're an 80-year-old man and
if I was my husband.
If you were your husband. That's the thing about hanging out with somebody so much, you just start turning into them. Because like Avi drinks all that shit, and then he got me drinking that shit. You won't see me drinking that on like a normal Friday night. If we're at like, I don't know, a whiskey bar or like a little lounge or something, and he orders it, I'll have a little sip of his. Like, I'm not opposed.
Justina and I, before we started recording, we're talking about having our husbands on like way down the line and talking about, we were like, it would be the most fucking awkward conversation because they're both so quiet. And I said, they probably just end up talking about like music and guitars because they both play music. But no, they would talk about scotch and brandy.
You're probably right. Brandy. Avi's not quiet. I think he's just tired of talking to me. I think that's the problem.
And again, like, why? How do we have these 3-hour episodes? Because nobody will fucking listen to us. We don't have anybody to talk to.
This is our weekly vent sesh. Yeah. We're just like, oh, practical magic, blah 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 blah. Let's get it all out now, because once I go back to the husband, he's just like, shut the fuck up about practical magic already.
We're like cloistered nuns. We just have like a vow of silence all day.
Basically. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. There's 4 more book mentions from Magic Lessons. So page 357, tell the truth tea could affect even the most challenging of liars. Those who were false, not only to those they loved, but to themselves as well. It seemed her recipe had worked wonders. He told the truth to his own wife, an uncommon occurrence. So that's referring to John Hathorne, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. When Faith kind of tricks him. So page 363. The way I see it, the girl owes me nothing, Finney said. Yet she had appeared with a gift before leaving for Salem, for they might never see each other again. And she offered him an elixir she called Live Well Tea. She advised that he drink it every morning. He had done so, for he trusted Faith Owens, and his life had indeed improved. Who is Finney? I don't remember.
He's the peddler who helps her get away from Martha.
Right. That's right. Yeah. He's a good guy.
He's a good boy.
Good old Finster.
The Finster.
Page 372. Faith brews up a pot of tell the truth tea for Hathorn. Oh, okay. So this is between pages 371 and 373. And John Hathorn's secrets after drinking this tea comes out. It says, during Ruth's punishment, the tea Hathorn had been given was still at work, and he told her the truth. The girl, talking about Faith, was his flesh and blood.
Scandalous.
So he spilled the beans that Faith was his daughter, and he told his wife this.
Mm.
After he punished her, can you imagine?
No.
Like, your husband treating you like shit to begin with, and then he's like, oh, and by the way, that's my daughter from another woman. Fuck that bastard.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Page 396. This is the last mention in this book. What?
I'm imagining our John Hathorn episode, and it's just being every other thing like, fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Page 396. These are the lessons to be learned. Drink chamomile tea to calm the spirit. Feed a cold. Starve a fever. Read as many books as you can. Always choose courage. Never watch another woman burn. Know that love is the only answer.
And again, I think those are like the last words of the book.
I love how she always signs off on like words of wisdom. My throat is so dry from reading all of that shit. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're going to tell us all about tea in the Book of Magic, the last book in the series.
The last book. All right. We're going to go to page 30, and this is in reference to when they decide to turn off the porch light, signaling they ain't doing business anymore.
Right.
Jet sat at the table exhausted and in need herself of a cup of courage tea. I hope you're happy, Franny said. Half the neighborhood has been here today. Jet smiled and poured more tea. She was indeed happy, and because Franny couldn't fight that, she had a cup of tea as well, for courage was what they both needed now. And then page 41, this is in reference to Jillian Watanabe, and she's had infertility problems in the past. It says, a tea of stinging nettle to strengthen the uterus, motherwort to bolster Jillian's immune system. She had tried red clover and even primrose oil and the oddly named chasteberry, along with black cohosh. She ate pomegranates and olive oil, honey and cinnamon, and had even tried the ancient ritual of bringing a toad to sleep in her bed, all to no avail. 43, horseradish and cayenne for coughs, fever tea for flu, black mustard seed for those plagued by nightmares. Page 52. The family had gathered early in the garden to partake in old family recipes. Honesty cake. Ooh, I had never noticed, that's a new cake.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, honesty cake and courage tea, then had walked en masse to the graveyard. When Franny and Jet and Vincent first arrived in town more than 60 years earlier, people had indeed come to stand at the windows and stare. Page 73, Agnes merely bowed her head in sympathy, then poured them 2 cups of courage tea, which they both needed. Page 184, breath was life, and this woman, Sally, had returned that to him. This is talking about Ian. She had saved him from some kind of spell.
Oh, right, yeah.
And now he was in her debt and they both knew it. She fixed him chamomile tea, always healing to the mind. Ian was now able to drink on his own, taking sips, and slowly he was restored.
Because it put him into
the spell had put him into not a coma, but he was paralyzed, right?
Yeah. He couldn't move, right?
So there's a lot of general mentions of tea in the book, but I was just trying to stick to the specific mentions of it when it was tied with magic.
Right.
So page 298, tea, Margaret asked Franny. The women were busy sizing one another up, intrigued by what they saw. One had practiced the nameless art all her life. The other had been born with magic. So Franny and Margaret are just eyeing each other down. Franny took a muslin sack of tea out of her purse. It was what they all needed most of all. I've brought my own. May I? I guess Margaret asked. When Margaret was given the go-ahead, she sniffed the tea. Currants, vanilla, green tea, thyme. Lovely. She knew courage when it was right there in front of her. And then page 340, Franny didn't need to drink tea for courage. It was something she'd been born with. She looked down to spy her fate in her palms of both her left and right hands, the future she'd been given and the one she had made for herself, crossing over each other to become one. This last day, this final deed of love, a life for a life.
So literally out of all of these books, there really only is one mention of tea in general, the tea leaves being used for tasseomancy.
You're right.
It's weird to me that Maria does a tea leaf reading and she clearly has that kind of gift, but I guess that ultimately never passes on down through the bloodline because nobody else ever talks about it ever again.
I kind of tried to sum up, we don't have to read all of these if you don't want to, but I tried to sum up the tea name and or herb and what it was used for or what the tea was made out of. And we're going to put all of this in a little PDF for you guys. But again, this is just for like a novelty. I get it.
Yeah. Novelty. There actually is package of novelties. They're tea bags with quotes from novels
From books
on the little tags. Yeah. Yeah.
But it'll be on our Patreon for those of you over there. But Justina, do you want to read through these real fast? What do you think?
All right, so yeah, so as we already established, guys, there's no caution tea recipe in any of the books, but it is mentioned quite a bit. So that's first. Next, we have clairvoyant tea, which is a blend of mugwort, thyme, yarrow, anise, and rosemary. Courage tea, which is currants, vanilla, spices, and thyme. Fall out of love tea, which is a blend of ginger, honey, and vinegar. Fever tea, which is cinnamon, bayberry, ginger, thyme, and marjoram. This would also be considered the fever and flu tea as well. Frustration tea is a blend of chamomile, hyssop, raspberry leaf, and rosemary. And this is great to soothe sleepless nights. Good humor. You just drink this and laugh yourself to death? Like, what does that mean?
To start your day off well, and you have like a good outlook on the day.
Got it. I love that. And cheerfulness. So what in that blend causes the cheerful, I guess the raspberry leaf? So then we have a live well tea. I guess they never tell us what's in that tea. Release me tea, unknown what the mixture is, but more powerful when combined with bitters and fresh radish root, which we learned before. Tell the truth tea, a true to me tea. Travel well tea, which has orange peel, black tea, mint, and rosemary, and is known to prevent scurvy. Regardless, 1600s, traveling by boat, not only did you have to worry about all the dangers you came into contact with just being out in the open sea, you also had to battle disease
each other
on these boats. I would see how they would want a travel well tea. Makes perfect sense. Black or green tea steeped with boiling milk and nutmeg for dysentery. Chamomile tea settles the nerves. Asthma, which we established before, not good for asthma. Don't take it if you have asthma. It does calm the spirit though, and is great for putting or easing you to sleep. Ginger tea, good for chills. Also, ginger we know is great for upset stomachs as well. I use it whenever my belly hurts.
That's a good hangover tea.
Yeah. Favorite tea. And it's got that like perfect little amount of spice. You like a spicy tea?
I do. I just started growing my own ginger also, and I can't wait because that's just going to be so strong.
Question. So can you take an actual ginger root, just pop it in the ground, and it just regenerates and regrows itself?
You know how they're kind of like bulbous?
Yeah.
You can snap those bulbs off and they would each make a little plant. Yeah, I just bought some from the store. Not all of them popped up. I think 2 of them have popped up. Just stick them in some dirt. Same with turmeric.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Me and Avi bought scallions one year. I think it was like during the pandemic when like we weren't going to the grocery store a lot. We were going for what we needed and like we were out. But we got a thing of scallions, and like, once we cut the tops off, we were done with the actual scallions. We took the little bulb and we popped it in a pot.
Yeah.
That thing grew like crazy.
Yeah. I love those. Same with, you could do that with potatoes, onions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So lavender tea, great for easing you to sleep and just chilling you out, making you nice and calm. Lemon verbena tea. Did it say what lemon verbena is used for?
It wasn't. And I want to look more into it because I have a lemon verbena here. I think we talked about, because I was like, ooh, verbena, like her apothecary. Yeah. And it smells amazing. I'm not positive on what it's used for.
Right. All right. So we're going to look into the lemon verbena. I think we definitely need to do a verbena episode at some point, since it's like intertwined with the, the shop and just the lingo in general, the vocabulary.
Yeah.
We have a licorice tea, which is good for cough and chest pain, which we talked about before. Lily of the Valley tea, which we established maybe not so good. Don't drink that one. Do your research. The same thing with pennyroyal tea. If you're pregnant, definitely stay away from that, but could also not be good as well. Again, do your research. Mugwort, definitely abortive. Again, you guys, do your research. And then we have peppermint tea, which is my fave. I love drinking my peppermint tea. That's also a good tummy tamer. Right?
Have you ever put a little peppermint leaf in your coffee?
In my coffee? No.
Dude, it is life-changing. It's so tasty. Put it in your matcha latte next time. Just like just a leaf. That's plenty,
Ooh. Okay, so you know how there's like multiple like kinds of mint? There's so many different kinds of mint. Have you ever grown the chocolate mint? Putting that in your coffee must be amazing.
Yeah.
Then we have red pepper tea, which we learned is for a persnickety stomach. Rose petal and ginseng, good for hair growth. Tea of wild onions and lobelia to soothe. It says to soothe, but what are we soothing? To soothe what? Did it ever say?
It did not say.
Okay, so just to soothe. You want to be soothed, go drink some wild onion. Oh, that sounds horrible. Does that sound like a
Wait,
good
don't
tea?
you get like an onion soup at like a pho place?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, you're right. I
restaurant?
guess.
Ooh,
Yeah.
so
I guess you're right.
soothing. That warms your spirit.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
I don't know what lobelia is though.
Neither do I.
Okay.
But like either that or like a French onion soup.
Oh,
right?
That's a horse of a different color. You're putting cheese in the mixture.
Okay, yeah. If you're adding cheese, I'm not sure that would soothe anything. I'm sure that might actually do the opposite. It's funny when you think of like onion tea, it sounds horrible, but when you think of it as a soup, it's basically the same thing. It's a broth, right? It's a liquid. So yeah, I guess I could get down with some wild onion soup if it was seasoned the right way. And if there's a little mozzarella stick hanging out the side of the glass, I'm fine with that too. Then we have sweet balm tea, which is good for fevers. And now we're going to the curacao cures, which is the soursop, the mamparitu, the cleistubum, the lemongrass, and the tawa, which we said a little earlier what all those did, and we'll also add those to our PDF. And lastly, we have the English teas and the Liberty teas. And
when our patrons voted on this one, I was like, cool, that'll be fun. We have only just gotten through the books. We have not even, tea is so fucking old, guys. This was a rabbit hole, so thanks.
Yeah, this was a lot.
All right, guys, we'll take a really short break. When we come back, we're going to do our card pull from Inner Witch Oracle. And we're going to tell you about some history about the tea, folklore about the tea, and then we're going to get into tea leaf reading, which is known as Tasseomancy. So stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to the Magnolia Street Podcast. You got your deck?
Yes, I got it. Right. I'm going to shuffle.
I'm ready for your shuffle.
Let me know when to stop. Stop. All right, I pulled Spellwork, and the image on the card, guess what it is? It's fucking herbs and a mortar and a pestle for mixing those teas. Oh, wow. Okay. Kristina.
What?
This is fucking perfect. Are you ready for this?
Yeah,
ready? Are you ready for how I'm going to connect this shit? Look at the mantra or the keyword on the bottom of the card. Can you see what that says?
Insight?
Insight. What do you do when you read tea leaves?
You gain insight?
You gain insight. Look at the herbs on this card. Does that not look like rose petals and tea and stuff that you would put in a teacup?
Sure does.
That, dude, I'm telling you, every card we pull for every episode, perfect. Real quick, I wonder if there is a tea card. Oh, there is a tea card.
No way.
There is one. Look.
It wasn't meant to be. I'm not even going to look at it.
All right. Should we read the tea card? I think we should read the tea card because we're doing a tea episode. We pulled the spellwork card, but it also makes sense though. Maybe they go hand in hand. This might be our first double pull. All
double
right.
pull.
So let's read spellwork first. So this is about insight. All right, so this card says insight and also correspondences. It says it is time to create the spell you need. Create a recipe that will help you to gain clarity and insight on the situation. Gather up all the necessary ingredients for the results that you want. Spellwork asks you to tap into your inner witch and create some magic to help gain better insight and clarity in your situation. The craft is a sacred and personal practice. When it comes to spells and magic, there are many components. Every herb and flower has its connections and magical properties, which is what tea is, right? Take time to ensure you are utilizing the correct tools, items, and surroundings to better yourself and your future. And the mantra on this card is, I plant and I sow, therefore I know.
Cute.
That's cute. Yeah. And then the tea card, this is about inner wisdom. And also the additional keyword is potential. So this says, slow down and listen to that inner voice. Take the time to connect with your intuition and gain deeper insight and connections to the world around you. You have more wisdom and insight than you give yourself credit for. Tap into your potential. Pay attention to small, thoughts, and feelings and see what magic enters your world. Tea is a combination of various dried herbs mixed together to create unique and magical flavors, aromas, and spiritual effects. Tea needs to steep in order to fully deepen the overall effects each blend is created for. You also need to take the time and steep in your own aged wisdom and collected thoughts. And the mantra on this card is, I activate the possibilities and magic within myself. So
I love that.
Right? Isn't that cute? There is something so spiritual and magical about just like getting cozy with a cup of tea and just inhaling the aroma and just being present, right? Because like so often, how often do we run to a Starbucks and just guzzle down a fucking frappuccino or something, right? We're so used to doing that in our busy everyday lives, you know, on a typical coffee run, that's usually what we do. But
I love making a cup of tea.
Yeah, tea just begs to be enjoyed, not rushed through. And it forces you to kind of just be present and just slow down and relax.
Because you have to wait. Like that's a little patience game, you know, that 3 to 5 minutes it takes to steep.
Exactly. So, you know, while your tea is steeping, it's a good time to do your little journaling, tarot journaling, do your meditation, sit there, and while you're waiting for it to steep, maybe just sit there a little bit and let your spirit guides come through while your hands are around a warm pot, just waiting for that to steep. It's just such an experience, right? So take that time for yourself, enjoy cup of tea. Me and Kristina are going to do a little bit of a tea leaf reading in a little bit.
Yeah, but before that, we have an abridged version of the history of tea.
You're going to tell us about this because I'm excited to.
All right, help me with the Latin. So again, we're going to put timestamps on everything. You guys kind of know by what is this episode 22, how we work. We do the books. We do the history, then we get to the witchy folklore like later on. So we'll put timestamps on everything, but stick around. I love this stuff.
Yeah, same. Like, I think it's important before you even get to the witchy stuff to just know the origins and where things come from. You know, just like you know how it works before you use it for other purposes.
So tea is Camellia sinensis or Thea sinensis. And I'm guessing the Theaceae?
Theaceae looks like.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, why are there two names? So this is from greentea.net. Is Camellia sinensis the same as Thea sinensis? Camellia sinensis was given the original scientific name, Thea sinensis, in 1753 by the Swedish doctor.
I was going to say, are they twins? Do they have their own show called Sister Sister? Like thinking of like
Thea and Camellia.
Thea and Camellia is like Tia and the new Tamara. Tia and Tamara.
In 1753 by Swedish doctor and botanist Carl Linnaeus. Coming back around.
Wait, when did we hear about him before?
He was in our Belladonna episode, I'm pretty sure.
Was he?
I'm pretty sure.
What he doing that?
Because he is a doctor and botanist who is apparently like naming, he might have been the one naming everything right off the bat, you know?
Okay. Okay. Was he the one that was just like, he found it, so he kind of like named shit after himself? A lot of people do that.
I don't think so.
A lot of people do that in the science world, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, sorry.
So after the publication, I guess he also went by Lynn or Linne, Linne with a over top of it. Yeah. After the publication of his first work, I'm going to call him Linnaeus, soon realized that the tea plant was a camellia species. So he renamed it Camellia sinensis. Sinensis.
Sinensis. Is this going to be our new Death Watch Beetle episode?
Somebody just commented how they felt so seen by me acknowledging the dyslexia that is in the room. So some common names. This is from plants.ces.ncsu.edu. It's we have Assam tea, ASSAM, tea camellia, tea plant, and tea tree camellia. The tea camellia is a hardy evergreen shrub, which I didn't know. I didn't know that tea was not just like a descriptor.
That's what I thought.
I'm so stupid.
Well, me too, because I thought the same thing. I thought tea was just like a blend of multiple herbs steeped into hot water.
Right.
Tea is an actual shrub.
It's a plant.
That's
camellia.
I was today years old when I learned this. So thank you, Christina, for enlightening me.
It's a small tree that's probably the most widely grown camellia in the world, traditionally used for caffeinated teas. Wow. They are harvested as the leaves emerge, beginning in early spring, and processed in different ways to create white green, oolong, and black. All those different kinds of teas.
Wow.
Smaller young leaves and leaf buds are used for making green tea. The older leaves, which are larger, are used for making the oolong and black tea. And the buds are used for white tea.
Okay,
Amazing.
so they literally use every single part of this plant to make different kinds of teas, sounds like.
At least the parts above ground.
Oh, that's a good point. Like, are the roots used for stuff too?
I don't know. There are two major varieties. Camellia sinensis, which we were talking about, is the Chinese variety that has small leaves and it's more tolerant of cold weather, hardy to the US zone 6. And C. sinensis, and I think this is the variety Asamica, and this is from the Assam region of the northern India area with larger leaves, hardy to zone 7 and south of that, I think. The differences in the taste and color and aroma between these teas are achieved by varying the variety, climate, harvest, oxidation.
Wait.
I'm having a stroke. Oxidation.
Wait, oxidation?
Oxidation. God dang. And processing. That one person out there with dyslexia knows.
Orifice.
This plant is slow growing and easily maintained. Unlike many other camellia species, it is heat and drought tolerant and can perform well in full sun. The attractive dense dark leaves and blossoms make it a good plant for screening, foundation planting, hedges, and it's an attractive patio and container plant. For optimal tea production, it is best to prune between 4 and 5 feet just before spring growth to encourage those new shoots. The flowers attract bees and it's mildly resistant to damage by deer. This next bit is from journal.rushi/tea.com. All true tea is made with leaves harvested from the single plant species called Camellia sinensis. Colloquially, the word tea is often used to refer to many herbs and botanicals that are brewed with hot water, like we thought. Yeah. Although these plants are not typically tea. The actual tea plant is an evergreen tree native to the part of Southeast Asia, where China's Yunnan province meets India's Nagaland region, the northern areas of Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam.
You're blowing my mind right now because I had no idea that tea, all stemmed from one shrub.
Besides, what is it? Black, white, green, and oolong. All the rest are considered herbals, like an herbal blend. They're not really tea. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Although, I mean, like, I guess using the term tea has evolved over time and people just use the term tea loosely, kind of like how we did before. Like, oh, I guess apple cider vinegar and this blend of spices is a tea. It's in hot water. It's a tea. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I guess technically it's not now that we're learning this. So
it's a soup.
So fuck everything we just said. Soup. It's like that onion soup.
You want to tell us a little history?
Okay, so this is the history of Camellia sinensis by Richard Smith. Legend has it that the human discovery of Camellia sinensis dates back over 5,000 years to 2,737 BCE. Holy shit. So 2,000 years before, almost 3,000 years before Christ. In other words, your favorite cuppa in one form or another first came into existence many millennia ago. The earliest records about tea are a preparation guide written during China's Tang dynasty between 760 and 762 CE. That said, tea remains were discovered in a tomb from the Han dynasty some 500 years earlier. Oh yeah, by the way, this is from icsedgwick.com, so we'll link this below. According to some legends, Emperor Shennong discovered it in 2737 BCE. Shennong or Shennung made the discovery by pure accident. According to the tale, Shennong, after a day of experimenting with herbs, decided to rest underneath an unknown tree. He eventually fell asleep in the midday sun with a cup of boiling water by his side. Do you think that's the alchemy tree?
Ooh. What was the tree that the Buddha slept under?
Was it a Bodhi tree? I know the Bodhi tree. I think the Bodhi tree is in India. But anyway, while the emperor dozed, a gust of wind came through the tree. Leaves fell to the ground, with some landing in Shennong's drink. The leaves began to infuse with the water. When Shennong awoke, he discovered a strange greenish beverage next to him. Intrigued, he decided to try it. The emperor was delighted by the scent and delicious taste. He also felt invigorated and refreshed.
It was a fig tree.
A fig tree. Okay. So without knowing it at the time, Shennong had just uncovered the secrets of Camellia sinensis, or so the story goes. Regardless of its truth, the incredible legacy of Shennong's alleged escapades is undeniable. Today, tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world after water.
Wow.
I just have to say real quick, a while ago, I think probably like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, one of my internet friends, shout out to Ellie Brusha, she also had a YouTube channel. I think she since deleted it. And she would talk about like, tea, and she had her own practice and stuff like that. She had a subscription to a tea magazine. She sent me an issue, and it came with a little tin of tea. I've never drank it. I never used it because it's like traditional Chinese tea and you're supposed to drink it a certain way. And I'm just so intimidated.
That seems like a special occasion.
I'm so intimidated on how to prepare this. But yeah, I think I might have given it to another friend of mine who is more into the teas, like legit tea. I'm not talking like, traditional medicinals, pop a bag in a cup of water tea. Like, I was a little intimidated, so I gave it away to somebody who was worthy. And also, I just remember, like, I opened the tin just to like smell it.
Yeah.
It has a very like fishy kind of smell.
Oh, interesting.
It's hard to explain. You know when aluminum gets wet or something, it has that like fishy kind of
like metallic.
Yeah, it's like a metallic kind of smell. Like
the mercury.
Yeah, definitely. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to drink this. So this says tea is the most economically important member of the genus Camellia. The Britons collectively drink 165 million cups of tea a day. It is estimated that more than 3.6 million tons of tea leaves are produced annually in 40 countries. Besides being a delicious hot beverage, there appears to be a number of health benefits associated with drinking tea. Antioxidant compounds found in abundance in the leaves of green tea, such as flavonols and polyphenols, could provide potential benefits in the treatment of conditions such as cancer, diabetes, obesity, and many cardiovascular ailments. In the UK, tea drinking is socially and culturally intertwined with the British consciousness. This ubiquitous and everyday occurrences shrouds what can be described as somewhat unpleasant and checkered history. In 17th century Britain, there were no taps with clean running water. The only ways of producing clean, disease-free water were to sterilize it through boiling or produce alcoholic beverages such as ales. Is that where ale came from? Just because they wanted something clean to drink?
Right?
Interesting. Unsurprisingly, the consumption of alcoholic drinks did little to boost productivity amongst the masses. Boiled water must have been a rather dull alternative. The introduction of tea in 1652 provided a highly pleasant flavoring to boiled water. Its popularity exploded amongst all classes in society. For 150 years, the British imported a lot of tea from China through the port of Canton. Even though tea made up a significant part of their economy, the British didn't know much about tea plants or how to grow them. The Chinese were rich and advanced, and they didn't really want to do business with the British. So, the British forced China to trade with them by starting a war called the Opium Wars. The British sold opium to the Chinese, which made them a lot of money, but it also caused problems in China. The British won the war, took over Hong Kong, and learned how to grow tea themselves in India. In 1773, the British passed a law to add a small tax on tea sold in the American colonies. The colonists were angry because they had no say in this tax, and it led to a protest known as the Boston Tea Party.
Heyo, there it is.
Men dressed as Native Americans threw tea from British ships into the harbor, which contributed to the American Revolution. After gaining independence, tea became unpopular in the U.S. Interestingly, Canada, which remained loyal to Britain, drinks 4 times as much tea per person as the US.
Whoa.
That's a lot of tea.
And that's from blogs.reading.ac.uk.
We're going to pop on over to some folklore now. And this is where things start to get very interesting. All the mystical stuff.
This is from, again, Icy Sedgwick. They have an amazing collection of folklore information. We're just passing it along. So tea is perhaps most associated with fortune telling, which we'll get into a lot more later. And a whole range of superstitions and predictions accompany tea and the ritual of drinking it. For example, a teaspoon upside down on a saucer indicates that you'll hear news of a close relative's bad health. But if you want to predict when a marriage will happen, then balance a teaspoon on the edge of the cup Drip tea 1 drop at a time onto the spoon until the spoon falls. The number of drops it takes to dislodge the spoon is how many years it'll be until the marriage happens.
Wow.
When stirring tea in a teapot, stir it clockwise. Stirring it anti-clockwise can stir up conflict. Don't stir anyone else's tea, as you risk falling out with them. Only ever use a spoon to stir tea, as it is bad luck to stir it with anything else. Women are advised to put sugar into a cup before milk. Otherwise, they will never marry. If a man poured more than 1 cup of tea for a woman on the same occasion, she'd become attracted to him. Win her over by tea.
She's like, I like how you pour that tea. Sexy tea to pour.
2 women sharing a teapot had to be careful. If they poured tea from the same pot, one would soon become pregnant.
Whoa.
Putting 2 teaspoons on the same saucer by accident indicates a wedding or a pregnancy. If you accidentally drop a teaspoon while making tea, it predicts a pregnancy for someone at the gathering. It doesn't count if you do it on purpose. Leaving the lid of the teapot open means that you're open to receiving visitors. Likewise, leaves floating in a cup of tea meant visitors will be on their way. If a tea leaf or stalk floating in the tea is, quote, beau, if it sticks to the spoon, then a male marriage partner will arrive. So it's a good thing if the tea leaf or stalk floats in the tea.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay. Don't drink a tea kettle dry or it'll bring bad luck. Avoid spilling milk when you add it to your tea, or that will bring bad luck. Breaking a teapot is a sign of trouble. Married couples should beware. If a kettle spouts water while boiling, it indicates a quarrel on the way. If you boil a kettle on your wedding day and it boils over, you'll be a sour wife. Oh. Brewing tea more strongly than usual suggests the start of a new friendship. Making it weaker will see the end of a friendship. Fishermen believe that if they emptied the teapot before they set off, the fish wouldn't bite. And if the family emptied the teapot before he left the house, the man would be lost at sea. Ooh.
There's a lot of like fisherman superstitions.
Yeah, associations, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not all bad, I guess. Spilling tea while you're in the process of making it is a sign of good luck. If you see bubbles on the surface of your tea, that's great. If they're in the center of the cup, it's a good financial omen. If they're at the sides, it means kisses are coming.
Oh.
Scoop up the bubbles on the teaspoon and lift the spoon without touching the cup's sides. If you can swallow the bubbles before they pop, you'll get a letter with good news. So I didn't know this. I guess tea became an easy way to poison people. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take the poison.
The poison. Goose goes poison.
Goose goes poison. You know, I had to fucking look that up after you said that. And I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly how I talk. But yeah, so apparently tea became an easy way to poison people. Understandably so. In the northeast of England, we had the notorious murderess and apparently Britain's most prolific female killer, Mary Ann Cotton. They still don't know exactly how many people she poisoned, but it's believed to be around 21.
Killer.
Yeah. She's particularly notorious because she kept taking out life insurance policies on her partners and children before they died of apparent, quote, gastric fever, end quote.
Wow.
The symptoms of this are incredibly similar to those of arsenic poisoning, but it seems Cotton used tea as her delivery mechanism, allowing her to keep giving the poison until it built up in the body to a lethal dose. Does that sound familiar? Like Jillian's, what she did with Jimmy and the belladonna? Cotton apparently kept a small teapot specifically for her poisoning, and Beamish Museum holds the teapot believed to be hers. It's a black Wedgwood teapot donated in 1972. Okay, so she was finally caught because she tried to give up one of her stepchildren, but when this didn't happen, she commented to a local official that she wouldn't be troubled by him for long. The official informed the police after the 7-year-old died and the autopsy found arsenic in his stomach. This led to exhumations of other people close to her, and arsenic was found in their stomachs too. Her defense tried to claim that those who died must have been poisoned by household arsenic present in the dyes used in the wallpaper.
Victorian times.
So it says this is plausible given how common an ingredient arsenic actually was, and the Dirty Sexy History podcast has a fantastic episode about it. I don't think I heard it from there because I've never heard of that podcast, but we're gonna have to go listen to this shit now. Now I'm intrigued. The defense didn't stick, and she was executed on March 24th, 1873.
Ooh, that's coming up.
This happened in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Ann Cotton went on to become the subject of a rather macabre nursery rhyme. So Mary Ann Cotton, she's dead and she's rotten. She lies in her bed with her eyes wide open, pronounced to rhyme with rotten. It's supposed to be like a sing-song kind of thing. Sing, sing, oh, what should I sing? Mary Ann Cotton is tied up with string. Where, up in the air, selling black puddings, a penny a pair.
Ooh, gruesome.
Yeah, right? Dude, a lot of children's nursery rhymes are very dark.
So dark.
Ring around the posy, pockets full of posy, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. That's about death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucked up. So fucked up. The Cusco's poison. So it says not all tea poisoners used arsenic. Sarah and Anne Rimmer were charged with an attempt to poison Anne's daughter Elizabeth in 1852 in Liverpool. Anne and her sister Sarah had made Elizabeth a pot of tea, and Elizabeth noticed the tea was sweeter than usual. After drinking it, she suffered burning in her throat and stomach. Her mother and an aunt had threatened to poison her once before, so the quick thinking Elizabeth took the teapot to the druggist. An analysis of the contents confirmed the presence of oxalic acid, and Sarah and Anne Rimmer were sentenced to death.
Her mother and aunt had threatened to poison her before?
That's fucked.
The fuck?
Isn't that fucked?
Wow.
Apparently it was sweeter than usual, it said. Don't they say like antifreeze is like sweet? That's why like your pets try to go for it, because like,
really?
It's supposedly like it tastes good to them, but it'll fucking kill them.
How do you say that?
Oxalic acid.
It's colorless, crystalline. It dissolves in water. What foods contain oxalic acid? Beet greens, rhubarb, spinach, beets, Swiss chard, endives, cocoa powder, and sweet potatoes, and more.
It's naturally found in things, but I guess it can be poisonous in large amounts.
Quantities, yeah.
Cressa. That is cressa.
It all comes back to poison every time.
The Cusco's poison.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're gonna talk about some tasseomancy right now,
and that's Tasseomancy. Tasseomancy. Let's talk about tasseomancy. Do you want to take the history, or would you like me to take it?
Let's flip a coin.
No way. Okay. All right.
I'm a horrible coin flipper, by the way. This is embarrassing.
I'm gonna be judging you from here.
No, okay. I'm not gonna flip it like I would normally flip it, because with my luck, it would just like ricochet off my computer screen and shatter it. So I'm just gonna throw it in the air and catch it.
Okay, I'm gonna pick tails.
It is tails.
Okay.
All you.
All
no
right.
pressure. No pressure.
No pressure. So the art of tea leaf reading is known as tasseomancy, and it's closely connected to the history of tea. Tea has been around for a very long time, as we just discussed, and its origins can be traced back to China's middle and lower Yellow River Valley during the Shang Dynasty, which was over 3,000 years ago. Even though people in the East knew about tea for centuries, it wasn't until the 17th century that trade routes made it possible for Europeans to try to also. When explorers came back from the East, they told tales of this magical drink that had all sorts of health benefits. But it wasn't until 1650 that tea first appeared in Britain. At first, only rich people could afford it, and they loved drinking it. But then the official trade of tea in Britain began in 1664 with the import of 2 pounds, 2 ounces of tea leaves for King Charles II. So over time, more and more people were able to enjoy tea, and it became really, really popular. As we talked about the cents on the dollar or the pounds on the king.
Pounds on the pounds.
Pounds on the pounds. Pounds on pounds.
Pounds on pounds.
All about that base. So by the turn of the century, black tea had become the national drink of Britain, and it was everywhere. People drank tea in coffee houses, tea shops, tea rooms all around London, even made its way into British colonies in America, of course. As the price of tea dropped, more and more people were able to afford it. It went from that small package for the king to 24 million pounds by 1801. And that's how tea became such an important part of British culture. Tea leaf reading also has had a similar path to tea consumption. At first, only wealthy people could afford it, and they would have their tea leaves read by Romani tasseomancers, who were often invited to parlors and tea rooms to read for their hosts' guests. These guests were usually affluent Victorians who were interested in the occult, big time, like occult, Victorian in the occult, just like besties. However, as time went on, tea leaf reading became more popular and accessible to everyone, especially in less wealthy circles where it was seen as a simple and affordable form of divination. Reading tea leaves is referred to as a primarily female pastime during the 18th century, although it became more common in the 19th century. Due to the manuals devoted to tea leaf reading, many of the signs are very similar. For the Victorians, particularly the burgeoning middle class, Tasseomancy became widely popular, and a whole culture evolved around it. Hostesses would read tea leaves of their guests, and specialized cups painted with occult symbols or zodiac signs were sold alongside accompanying guidebooks.
Can we talk about what you told me about those kind of cups?
First of all, they're beautiful. But I've heard through just the one we're going to talk about in a little bit that you would probably want a plain cup. Those beautifully painted cups with the zodiac signs and like the yes or no, almost like a Ouija board kind of style inside, is not recommended to use, because you want to be able to use your own intuition and be able to see clearly the symbols that the tea makes. Right. That's what I have been told.
I wonder how
so
those
pretty.
Cups, they are. Yeah, they're beautiful. I've always wanted a cup like that. I don't have one like that, but I see them everywhere. And I'm wondering, like, if you do use a cup like that, how do you use a cup like that? You know what I'm saying? Right. Because like there's the zodiac symbols. So I guess like if some tea falls into line with one of those zodiac symbols, then how does that zodiac symbol influence the reading? You know what I'm saying?
If any of you listening use one of those primarily, please tell us how you use them.
We would love to know.
Yeah. So interestingly, there is an alternative history to Tasseomancy presented in the book Teacup Reading and Fortune Telling by Tea Leaves, which was written by an anonymous quote-unquote Highland seer in the 18th century.
Was it Claire?
Was it Claire? Anonymous.
Oh no, that's Outlander, not Highlander. Never mind.
Highlander is Steven Seagal, isn't it?
Chuck Norris? I don't know.
This book is actually one of the oldest books about tea in English. The book claims that tea leaf reading was, quote unquote, one of the most common forms of divination practiced by the peasants of Scotland, and was passed down through the generations of Scottish fortune tellers, known as spaewives, S-P-A-E. Spee? Spay?
Something like that.
So it seems that tea leaf reading has a long and varied history, depending on who you ask.
That's interesting that you bring up that it was practiced by the peasants of Scotland. I'm gonna touch on this a little bit later when we get to the pop culture. It does have to do, one of the videos that I'm linking you to is of Scottish origin. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a little bit of this?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking a lot.
I'll take some. All right. Tasseomancy is often said to be passed down through the female line, and this feature of the folklore likely owes a great debt to the superstitions of the Victorians. Witches, fortune tellers, and Wiccans were primarily women, and the association of tea leaves divination with the hostess of the house served to solidify it as a primarily female art form. Modern Victorian housewives could bring a bit of arcane magic into their home while still remaining upstanding and fashionable. It was magic without the stigma. For the Victorians then, Tasseomancy was something of a cultural phenomenon, viewed with an equal mix of awe and suspicion, and a whole mythology was created around it. For a modern-day comparison, we need to look no further than tarot cards or the Ouija board, two other very popular methods of divination. Quick question, what's your favorite method of divination?
Oh, I love using a pendulum, actually.
Yeah.
I don't use it often enough, but sometimes I'll incorporate a pendulum and my oracle cards or tarot cards together. Have you ever tried that?
No, but I'm not too into the pendulum. I have one. I don't use it as much as I should. I have messed around with it a little bit, but I think my method of divination would probably be definitely cards.
Yeah.
I just love doing card pulls. They're just quick, and I'm a very visual person. So to have something visual in front of me to jog my intuition, I'm just like, I love that. But I love that idea of combining the two. So like if you do a card pull, then you can use the pendulum as kind of like a confirmation or not, right?
Oh, I didn't even think of it that way. Well, I was going to say for myself, that's how I like to work. But for other people, definitely cards. But I'll take a card deck and I'll split it in half. and then I'll hold the pendulum, and whichever direction it goes, I'll pick that side. And I'll keep doing that, and I'll like fan it out in different and narrow it down until it gets the card that I'm supposed to have.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that.
Try it.
Yeah. But yeah, like you could use the pendulum kind of like as like a clarifier.
Yeah.
So instead of like pulling another card, you could be like either ask it like, I don't know, is it just like yes or no questions for the pendulum? Is that how it works? Okay.
I would love to know more about palmistry. I have a book on it, and I started to like learn back in the day, like in college, to like impress people. But like I think that would be such a interesting skill to learn. And astrology also, you know, is endless learning.
And isn't it interesting how Maria in the first book, she's into the Tasseomancy, but then Jillian in the movie, she's into the palmistry.
Do they do any other divination in that movie? Besides like Broomfell companies coming, that's, you know, a superstition.
Yeah, superstition, but that's a little different than divination.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only time we see it in the movie. The palm when she's it's suggested anyway that she reads palms. She doesn't actually, but
can I take a peek? Oh, you're making me uncomfortable, Jillian.
Anyway, all right. So ironically, it would be the humble teabag that would bring Tasseomancy to an end. Oh, true.
Oh.
So introduced in 1903, towards the end of the Victorian era. At this time, tea was brewed using loose tea leaves, which would leave sediment at the bottom. Divining sediment was not a wholly new practice at the time, since there's some evidence it was already being practiced with coffee grounds and wine sediment.
Oh,
yeah, that's interesting. Cool. That's a cool alternative.
That's my thing, like wine divination. Hell yeah! Have you heard of there was a person who would read like your butt print? You would like sit in like paint, and then you would put your butt on a piece of paper, and they would divine from the shape of your butt.
That's your butt amazing. Well, I guess it's kind of like an ink blot test, right?
Right.
Like, what do you see in the paint?
In a butt?
In your butt?
What do you what do you see in your butt? It's loud in my butt.
Yeah, this is getting out of hand. All right, throwing cups or tossing the last of the tea to read the leaves. The tea bags, even when open, revealed none of the delicate patterns and symbols necessary for divination. Interesting. So it had to be loose leaf, I guess, from the start. Throwing cups or tossing the last of the tea to read the leaves, a practice deeply rooted in society at this point, no longer rendered the potential for divination for the new Edwardians. And so Tasseomancy was relegated to the past, while tarot cards and Ouija boards took center stage. The latter rising to particular prominence after the horrific loss of life during World War I. Wow. I guess that does make sense. Like, everybody wants to get in contact with people they've lost in the war, right?
I think I've used a Ouija board once. Do you still have yours from back in the day?
Oh, we used to fuck with it a lot. I told you the whole Ouija board story. My aunt, well, it wasn't even mine. My aunt threw it over the fence. It was my friend's. But since then, I think my brother had a Ouija board, or he made one, which apparently they're supposedly like the worst ones.
Don't make your own.
I guess effective, because it's using your own energy and putting your own energy into it. It's not like taking a board game like Milton Bradley.
Hasbro. Milton Bradley.
It's not like taking a board game out of a store. So he made one.
Can you imagine working at the factory where Ouija boards are made?
Oh, it must be so haunted up in there. There's plectrums flying left and right, just spelling out letters for all the factory workers.
They're like, stop.
They're like, leave me alone. I'm on my lunch break. But yeah, he fucked with the Ouija board a lot more than I did, because I'm a chicken shit. But I remember there was one time he was across the street playing the Ouija board with some friends, and my mom was like, go get your brother, it's time for dinner. So I went over there, and my friend had one of those garages that like half was converted into a bedroom. So, like, the front half, like, I was able to walk in and put my ear up to the door to see what everybody was doing in there, and I knew they were playing the Ouija board.
You sneaky Sally.
So I knocked on the door, and everybody, like, I did one of those like obnoxious knocks, like boom, boom, boom. So like it sounded like, you know, they were contacting somebody, and they all were screaming. I scared the shit out of them, and I hear them in the room like, go answer the door. You answer it. No, you answer it. And I'm just like,
my God.
They're like cracking up, like. So I go and run into like the bush, like on the side of the house, and somebody opens the door and they saw that nobody was there and they're like,
oh my God, you're the
I'm
best.
just like sitting in the bush, just cracking up. That might have happened like a few times. And then finally I jumped down and scared them. And I was
That's
like,
so funny.
"Can't get home. Mom wants you home for dinner."
The jig was up.
Yeah. No, but yeah, there were more pranks growing up with the Ouija board than, actually legitimately trying to contact anybody. You know what I mean? Because when you're a kid, you just want to do spooky shit because you think it's cool.
Right.
It has nothing to do with spirituality or actually trying to
No,
use it.
you want to be scared.
You don't want to use it for divination. You just want to fuck with ghosts. So yeah, that's my stupid story.
I used to join this like little tiny group. It was like a mediumship class.
That sounds pretty cool.
It was really cool. And we used to do this practice of table tipping. Have you ever heard of that? It's if you picture like a circular table that can seat maybe like 4 or 5 people around it. And we would sit and start moving the table, like getting the energy worked up. It was like on like a, I don't know, like a smaller base. Yeah. And we would play like old music. And it would be like the table would start moving. And by the end, like most of the people wouldn't have their hands on it anymore. And like the table would just be doing its own thing. We would give message to each other that we would either hear or sense or feel. Sorry, that was my phone.
Old-timey music?
Like House of the Rising Sun or
I thought you meant like you made it sound like a transatlantic rave with the table going like, hey.
Look up table tipping. It's pretty intense.
I'm gonna look that up because now I'm intrigued. I need to know what this is. Did anything come through? Anything worthy of noting?
The only thing I remember was, this was so many years ago. This was like 7 years ago. But I had, during this class, we would also sit and listen to like a teacher who had gone into trance and shit like that. And I was kind of spacing out and I was doodling, and I had doodled a Native American like sitting with like a blanket around them, and just you could just see their braid, and they were looking over this hillside. There was another older man in the group who wasn't there that night, he's sweetest guy. He was sick for a while, hadn't been there for a couple weeks, and he came back, and we had done some kind of practice, all of us together. And at the end of the night, he came to me. He was like, "Hey, tonight I wanted to tell you, like, I'm seeing you." And I had short hair then. He's like, "I'm seeing you as a Native American wrapped in a blanket with your hair braided, sitting on the edge, looking over like this vista."
Wow.
And I took out the piece of paper I had in my book and I showed it to him. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
That's strange. And
then I found out recently that my 10th great grandfather was like a chieftain of the Mi'kmaq tribe up in Canada. Wow. Back in the day. He's got a Wikipedia page. He's got songs about him.
What?
I'm like, bro, that's pretty intense. I mean, he's the 10th great grandfather to how many hundreds of people, but still.
Right, but
isn't that cool?
That is cool.
So there's a connection there. And I was like, why do I feel like, we were talking about Pocahontas like not long ago. I was like, why do I feel a connection to Pocahontas? Well, that's why.
Have you ever heard the wolf cry
to the blue corn moon?
Love that song. Classic. Put it on the playlist. I also wanted to ask you real quick, have you ever done, because you said you were doodling when you were sitting in that class, and the teacher was kind of like in a trance or whatever. So would that be considered like spirit writing? Did you feel like it was like a spiritual?
Oh, I had never thought of it that way. I guess it could have been. Dude, we also did this thing where we sat in this like, if you picture like a box around you without the front, so just the 3 sides. And dude, I don't know what the name of it is called, but you like dim the lights. There's only one light on you. Somebody sits within that box and the other people observe, and everybody takes a turn. And it's almost like doing like, I think, a Bloody Mary thing where you look at yourself in the mirror and your face, everything starts shifting.
Distorts. Oh my God. That would creep me out. Wait, you did that?
We did that. Yeah.
Isn't that supposed to like, you're supposed to like be able to see your soul or some kind of like through the mirror, I guess.
You're supposed to breach the world somehow. The only thing I remember of my time in the box was like, I was like being pulled like to this side. And that's all I remember. Okay. I don't remember anything anybody like told me afterward that they had seen. It was so long ago, but California's a weird place.
Oh God. Yeah, it is.
Hashtag Ron Jeremy.
Hashtag Ron Jeremy. It all comes back to Ronnie boy.
I'm sorry, we derailed a little bit, but
all right. That's why Let's be honest. That's why our audience is really here. They just want to hear about our stupid ass
I
stories.
just never heard, like, growing up, you hear about tarot, Ouija boards, but like getting involved with like the mediumship, I had never heard of doing table tipping or like spirit writing or anything like that. There's another way of divination. It's where you can hold an object of somebody else and get the information,
their energy.
And the story behind it. And I remember I was able to do that like really fucking well. And I don't know what happened because you have to practice, and I just don't practice. But
it's like that psychic. What's her name? I think it's Alison Dubois. Do you know her?
I don't know.
Did you ever see that show Medium with Patricia Arquette?
No, I know the Long Island Medium.
She was in Stigmata. Was that the sister? Yeah, Patricia Arquette. She plays Alison Dubois, who is a real life medium, and the show was based around her. And she would actually help solve murder cases based on having objects of people and able to tap into their energy and kind of events unfolding. And
wow,
she's a real life medium. That's a gift.
I think that would be really fun to try if like I sent you something and you sent me something and we try to like figure out the story, the history behind it or something.
Okay, that sounds fun. I don't know how good I'd be at it, but willing to give it a go.
So we had an instructor for my priestess training back in the day. It was a year-long program that dove into the sacred feminine and divination and ritual, how to set up a ritual for people or yourself, the wheel of the year, so many things, but it was a year-long program. Anyway, one of our instructors, her name was Reverend Judith Laxer, and I believe she's an author as well. And Judith came in to talk to us all about divination in this class. And I wanted to connect back with her because I remember doing Tasseomancy with her. She had a huge, I think there were 13 of us in the class, and she had a cup and saucer for each of us, like a special cup and saucer. We didn't get to keep them, but it was beautifully set up and we were able to divine for each other. I emailed her and I asked her if she would like to contribute at all to the episode. So I just wanted to share kind of what she had to say about the practice. And I found my old notes from the class of how to do it step by step. So after I read those, I think Justina and I are going to try to go warm up some water and divine for each other. Right?
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Judith Laxer is a modern day mystic who believes that beauty, humor, and the wonders of nature make life worth living. The founding priestess of Gaia's Temple and Moonwise Mystery School, both now online and accessible from anywhere, Judith is a keynote speaker, teacher of the magical arts and mysteries, and author of Along the Wheel of Time, Sacred Stories of Nature Lovers. Judith dedicates her work to the rise and culture integration of the divine feminine and all her magnificence and wisdom. And her website is judithlaxer.com, and they're also at gaiastemple.com. So she wrote in, I love the ritual aspect of Tasseomancy, creating the ambiance by lowering the lights and setting the table where the reading will take place. I always have a lit candle and, if possible, flowers on the table. I love the choosing of the teacups and saucers, selecting the kind of tea leaves, the boiling of the water, the steeping in the teapot. I love the conversation that takes place while sipping. I try to keep on topic, discussing the subject matter, issues, and questions we seek answers to from the tea leaves. The conversation helps establish trust. Oh, I love that. Which is always helpful in any kind of oracle reading. Some people are quite picky about the kind of tea used, but it's really a personal choice. It's not necessary, of course, but if possible, try using herbs you have grown yourself for your infusion. I find the readings I do using herbs I have grown, gathered, and dried myself to be the clearest, most satisfying. I think that is because I'm already in a deep relationship with the plants. And as in any deep relationship, communication is crucial and also practiced. This makes it easier to understand the message that the leaves will impart. So then the following are the notes from her class that she had given out to us. Do you want to read these?
It was your class, so you probably know better.
That's okay. I mean, I read it just like you read it.
But if there's anything else you want to add, feel free to jump in. Did you do this exercise in her class, you said?
Yes. So these notes are how we performed our divination for that day.
Okay. So, the ancient divinatory art of reading tea leaves called Tasseomancy is ancient. Wise women, trusting their intuition and the deep relationship they had with the spirit of the plants, would foretell the future by gazing into the leaves left at the bottom of the cup. Loose leaf teas are best for this practice. Tea leaves you have wildcrafted or obtained from a known or trusted source are encouraged. If using dried herbs to make your tea, crumble but don't powder them. The more surface area on the leaf, the more distinct the images will be. Use one kind of tea in the brew. Any herb used for a healing or magical purpose is called a simple. Like any other form of divination, tea leaf reading requires that we trust ourselves, that we keep the faith in what we see, perceive with our psychic senses, along with knowing a few guiding principles, such as, number 1, making and sipping tea should not be rushed.
Okay, wait. How Alice Hoffman is that?
Oh, 100%. This is like, yeah, Alice loves her lists, right?
She loves her list, but it should not be rushed.
It should not be rushed. We talked about this a little earlier in this episode, right? It's something that you should just be present and enjoy. And
exactly.
not like rush into Starbucks to get a Frappuccino through the drive-thru. You got to just slow down a little bit, you know? So yeah, so making and sipping tea should not be rushed. Number 2, discuss or ponder what you wish to know while sipping. Number 3, when almost all of the tea is swallowed, swish the remaining tea 3 times in a clockwise direction. Is that called diosol?
Dorsal?
Widdershins? Diosol? Is the Widdershins is the other way, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Which might help some leaves to stick to the sides of the cup. 4, then turn the teacup over on top of its saucer and turn it 3 times in a clockwise direction, beginning with the handle facing you. Well, this is really precise.
Right?
Number 5. Next, turn the cup upright, keeping the handle facing you, and gaze at the leaves. Notice and trust the images they form. Number 6. Sometimes the white space between the tea leaves relays a clearer image. Trust it. Number 7. In general, tea leaves that remain on the side of the cup depict more immediate influences. Those closer to the bottom depict influences further into the future. Some say the leaves on the bottom relay what is at the core of the issue. Some say those leaves relay hardship.
So Judith is also an avid gardener. If you follow her on Facebook, she's always posting the most beautiful things that are coming out of her garden. And she had a few other things to say. I wanted to include just a little bit about her personally. So this is what she had to say. She says, when I grow plants, I tend to them. I pay attention to their growth and development, and I do all I can to support their health and vitality. I'm not ashamed to admit I have lovely conversations with the deva, the spirits of the plants, my allies. When the time is right, at the peak of their life force, I ask their permission, and upon receiving it, I carefully harvest, expressing my gratitude for the gifts these plants are to me. I take several stalks at a time and snip the bottommost leaves off, enough so that when I bundle them with a rubber band and hang them on my drying rack, they won't mold. I make sure that the bundles are not touching anything else as they hang, and air can flow all around them to ensure they will dry without spoiling. I let them dry completely until all their moisture is gone. This can take several weeks. Mint and lemon verbena seem to dry more quickly than sage, for example, but you can experiment. When dry, the leaves should be so brittle they easily break if you touch them too roughly. As the moisture evaporates, the cell walls of the plant break open and nutrition and even more flavor is released. This makes for more nutrient-dense tea a healthy tonic for your physical bodies. But even more importantly, I believe they release their wisdom as well. This reciprocal relationship for my care for the plants and their care for me enhances my psychic gifts when reading their leaves. When the herbs have completely dried, I snip the leaves from the stalk. I keep the stems to burn in a future sacred ceremonial fire. The best dried leaves to use for tea reading are ones that are very small but not powdered either. I will crush them in my hands a bit before placing them in labeled jars. I keep the different herbs separate so I can choose whether to use a simple, which Justina told us about, which is one kind of tea or herb for a purer flavor, or a quote-unquote complex tea using more than one kind of leaf. I find complex teas interesting to read because they create more textured images on the bottom of the teacup. Try both and see which one works for your readings. Rest assured that even if you are not a gardener like me or don't have a garden, you have options. You can buy tea or herb leaves from an herbalist or health food store that sells them in bulk. You can buy fresh herbs from the grocery store and dry them in your oven. Low heat, slowly over time. Keep your eye on it so you don't cook or incinerate them. If I ever dry anything in the oven, it's usually on like 210, like something
Really?
super low for like 3 hours. So then you can bundle and dry them as she previously describes. You can always open a tea bag and use the enclosed leaves, although often those have been powdered. Better yet, buy loose leaf tea to use. Somewhere along the way, I highly encourage you to try wild crafting. Get out there and find a public meadow where no herbicides or pesticides are being used and look for clover, lemon balm, mullein, wild thyme, or oregano, bee balm, borage, etc. and gather your own. A good rule to follow when wild crafting is never take more than a third from any one plant and always leave more plant matter than you ultimately take. If we want our plants to talk to us and give us their wisdom and guidance, we must show them the respect they require. So I actually was inspired quite some time ago to do a Tasseomancy page for my own personal book of shadows from Judith's instructions. And we're going to link the video for that, how I created it, and all the information on there. But it just really goes over what Judith had to say. It goes over the boil, steep, drink, stir, turn, and gaze steps. I would love to share this with you. I'll scan it in and we will include this on our Patreon as a printable if you would like it for your own personal grimoire. But the video will be linked below if you'd like to see it.
So are we ready to try this?
Do we want to put the sparkly noise in here and go boil our water?
All right, I have some options.
Okay.
I don't know how many options you have. Do you have a lot of options or?
Well, I was going to show you my options and then I got impatient, so I just picked one.
Which one did you pick?
I picked Tamed Wild Heart Chakra Artisan Blend.
Ooh, what's in that?
This is hibiscus petals, orange zest, lemon balm, cloves, lavender, licorice root, and stevia. It says the heart chakra is a conduit for receiving love energy. With an open heart, we are able to receive and expand capacity for intuition. One may experience a boost in energy, positivity, love, and compassion. So I might be up all night.
Oh no.
What are your options?
All right, I have a lot here. So, Avi's sister works at this chocolate shop, and I guess they have like other artisans that can have their wares in the shop. So she gave me like all these teas one year for Christmas.
Ooh.
This is a good morning blend, so that's probably not a good one to start with to do right now. This is a black Ceylon Pico tea with mandarin and red thistle. I have a balanced tea, which is an herbal blend of peppermint, chamomile, blackberry leaves, cinnamon, ginger, and roses. This is
I like
really
that one.
This is really pretty. Can you see
that one?
I have a few more. White tea with ginger and pomegranate. Oh, and it says, I never noticed it. It says Camellia sinensis. Look at that. I told Avi yesterday, I was like, so did you know that tea came from a bush? He's like, yeah, like, you know, like the oolong bush. And like, no, I'm like, no, it's its own thing.
He's like oolong bush.
He's like, what do you mean? I was like, look up Camellia sinensis.
You'll know. If you know, you know.
Yeah, he's like, oh shit, it is. I was like, what do you think? I was lying to you? We've just talked about this on our podcast. And then I also have this rose black tea, which I probably won't do now since it's black tea and it might keep me up all night. And then I think this might be the one that I go with, or the one that you suggested, the balanced tea. But this is kind of along the lines of like the same deal. This is a lavender chamomile mint, but this doesn't have the rose petals in it like the balance one does. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go with the balance for sure. All right. So do you want to guide us in this tea swishing ceremony?
So I guess we'll pop back to our podcast personas also here. So what we're going to do first is we have a little extra syrup in the bottom, a little extra tea in the bottom. So we're going to swirl it 3 times. 1, 2, 3.
Did you say clockwise?
Clockwise.
2, 3.
Okay. Then take your saucer, put it on top of your cup, flip your cup over without making a mess.
This is going to go everywhere.
Try to keep your handle facing toward yourself.
Okay.
And then you're going to spin your cup 3 times clockwise like this.
Wait, clockwise in the entire plate 3 times?
Yes. All right. I'm going to move my saucer aside. Some people even read the stuff in the saucer.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, look at this.
Is that all of it?
Yeah.
There's some on the side, actually. So you're still good. You have some in your cup.
A little bit. Not a
That's
lot.
perfect. That's okay. So let me be able to see inside your cup, unless you're going to look at yours and I'm going to look at mine.
All right, there we go.
Let me see where the center is. Here we go. Okay. I'm seeing hummingbirds in yours.
In mine?
Yes. I'm seeing hummingbirds like toward the bottom, the very bottom of the cup. So I guess that's your that's your future. You do have some on the sides.
That little spot, that little speck, maybe like a bird, like a blackbird.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
I think I see like a stallion or some kind of horse.
Too.
You see
I
it?
see it like rearing, like bucking.
A bucking horse, right?
Bucking
you see
horse.
that?
I see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That big chunky shape on the side of your glass.
I'm trying to also look at like the negative space also.
Mm-hmm.
On the rim of your cup, I'm seeing like the part that's closest to your cheek that looks like a little flower with like a little leaf growing out of it.
Oh.
But it's facing inward. Like the blossom is facing inward, like it's pointing to your future.
Okay.
I gotta look up the symbol. I'm also seeing like a tooth.
Like a saber. Let's see, what else do I see in yours?
This is why I think they suggest having a light cup, a light inside and not having anything.
Nothing distracting.
Yeah.
I'm really seeing that bucking bronco. Maybe some kind of grasshopper. I think I also see like, like the legs on a grasshopper? That like long piece of, that long leaf looks like kind of like a leg of some kind of insect.
I see a dragonfly.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of insects in my cup.
I am, like a lot of flying outdoorsy things, like springtime things. What did I say? Hummingbird, dragonfly, flower, and a tooth.
And I see a stallion or a bucking bronco in yours, a grasshopper.
And remember, you just trust it. Whatever comes.
Maybe a little hand reaching toward you. You see that little hand?
This one?
Yeah. An axe, or I see a hatchet.
Oh, right there. Yeah. Ooh.
Yep.
I'm possessing the tools I need to cut down the roses.
Do you see someone twerking?
What?
Look, next to the hand, there's a little figure. It looks like it's twerking.
That's the inner child. That's my inner child.
I just see him like.
He also had a little accident.
Oh, he twerked out a poop.
That part where the tooth is reminds me of like sea foam. Like the greeny sea foam. Mm-hmm. Now, how do we connect this all into a message?
I don't freaking know. There were some symbol meanings down at the bottom, right?
Oh my God. Okay, so birds. Birds for you is good news. Do they have dragonfly? They don't have dragonfly, but they have butterfly, fickleness, a horse. If galloping, good news. If head only, a lover. So good news.
Good news.
Yeah, cool.
It's a galloping horse. What about a grasshopper?
There's no grasshopper. Let's see. Insect problems are minor and easily overcome.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant I thought you were going to say you're going to have problems.
You have problems.
You have problems.
Is there something that you have been wanting to talk to somebody about, to clear the air or something? Probably not. I'm just trying to put everything together, the closure and the tooth, the needing to verbalize. I don't know.
Yeah. Is that what the tooth means?
Oh, you know what? Your question earlier, I didn't even think about throwing bones. I've been really wanting to learn how to throw bones. And I found a jaw of probably a possum or something. And that was my symbol for communication, was that jawbone.
Oh, shit. So we hope you guys enjoyed that little tea leaf reading. If you guys want the full unedited version, head to our $8 tier on Patreon. All right. Me and Kristina do a little. Are we going to put the card pull on the Patreon, or are we going to put that on the actual episode?
Let's put it on the Patreon.
Patreon? Okay. So yeah, check out our Patreon. We did our little tea leaf reading, unedited. You'll see that over there, as well as we did a 4-card spread from the new Inner Witch Tarot deck from Grounded by the Moon. So check that out.
Do you want to do the Tasseomancy in the movies?
Yeah, we could do that.
Cool.
All right. So the first one is we're talking about Coraline, and I think was it Couch Sprite that was talking about this? One of our patrons mentioned the first time that she ever heard about or saw Tasseomancy was in the movie Coraline, which I named my cat after that movie. But yeah, you gotta watch that whole movie. It's adorable. It's kind of dark for children.
Yeah, that's what I had always heard.
Yeah, it's kind of dark for kids, but I don't know. I love that kind of shit.
So why did she go to those ladies' house?
Coraline, her and her family moved to this house called, I think, the Pink Palace. And it's this old, it's like a Victorian house. It's adorable. It's looks like a dollhouse. Her parents are always working all the time. She kind of feels shut out. She starts seeking out adventure around this house. Mm-hmm. Those women that you just saw, Miss Spink and Forcible, they live downstairs from the Pink Palace. They're in the basement level. That's their apartment.
Yeah.
So Coraline goes to visit them every now and then she actually, in her own house, in her own portion of the house, she ends up finding like a secret passageway. But basically all the characters that she finds in the other section of the house through this portal, they're very different than all the characters in the real world.
I remember like the mom with like the eyes. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah, she calls that her other mother.
The other mother.
The other
Fucking
mother.
spooky.
Yeah, very creepy. But these two women, I don't know. I'm sure there's theories and stuff about them. There's a woman on YouTube. I think her YouTube handle is Fangirl or the Fangirl, and she does movie like theories for like tons of different movies. And a big one on her channel is like she dives deep into like all the different Coraline theories. It's fascinating.
I gotta watch this movie.
Yeah, watch the movie and then watch all of her theories if you want to just really go down a rabbit hole. It's nuts.
After you finish watching all the Studio Ghibli movies, did I tell you about this already? I'll send you like the dark theories about the storylines.
Okay.
It'll mess you up.
All right.
Oh shit. So you have a few more videos to take me through.
Okie doke. Next up, we have the Tasseomancy scene in Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. Do you remember that movie? Do you remember this scene?
I do. I really like this lady.
Yeah. I don't remember what happens in it, though. Do you? Like, what do they see in the leaves? Do you remember?
know. Danger, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it was danger, but I don't remember, like, the actual symbol that they find in it. A spectral dog is one of the darkest omens in our world, and that's exactly what Harry... Okay, so Harry sees the spectral dog in his tea leaves. I love how they have, like, an actual Tasseomancy class.
I do too.
It's so badass. So this is the one I was talking to you about before. Talking about the Scottish origins. This is from Outlander, and I think this is in season 1 when Claire, her husband is a historian. While he's doing research, she kind of like kills time by, I guess she sees Mrs. Graham, who I think she's
like the caretaker of the B&B they're at.
Yes, of the B&B that they're at, and she so happens to read tea leaves, and she does palmistry, by the way. She combines Tasseomancy with palmistry in this scene.
Oh, cool.
So she starts off by reading her tea leaves, and then she's like, oh, can I look at your palm now? And then she goes into that whole thing. Yeah, so basically she tells her that her marriage lines are divided.
Usually they're broken, but hers are forked.
I don't know if this lady knows she's a time jumper. Is she gonna meet Billy Zane?
Billy Zane.
She's gonna meet Billy Zane.
I've never watched Mad Men. That's the next one you have on here?
Yes, I've actually never watched Mad Men either, but it was one of the ones that came up when I searched. I just searched tea leaf reading scene on YouTube, and this is one of the ones that came up.
So she starts reading the woman at the table's tea leaves and triggers her.
Yeah. And then
somehow she starts crying. She's like, oh, sorry, and walks away.
Then but did you see the other lady like pay her off? And she takes
She was like, bye. Thank you for your time.
She takes the money and runs.
We have a little bit more. What else do we have? We have tea and sorcery and a few simple tea love spells. And these are all from icysedgwick.com.
So, Amy Henrietta Lake was the last woman to stand trial for witchcraft in Guernsey in 1914. And it was all thanks to tea. Saren Charrington Hollins relates the tale. According to her, a woman named Mrs. Houghton believed she'd be cursed for not paying a debt of £3. She'd incurred the debt by buying some magic powders from Amy Lake after the unexpected death of her husband and the recent deaths of her cattle. Mrs. Lake read both tarot and tea leaves and sold charms made from kitchen cupboard ingredients to make a living. She'd sold Mrs. Houghton one of these charms after reading her tea leaves. Mrs. Houghton took the charm but didn't pay, leading Mrs. Lake to suggest harm would come to her if she didn't pay up. And though Mrs. Houghton went to the police about her, Mrs. Lake was accused of disorderly conduct and carrying on the trade of fortune-telling and witchcraft.
That is messed up.
Isn't it? Yeah. She denied the witchcraft charges, and the powders were tested and found to be products like baking powder. Despite this, she was sentenced to 8 days in prison.
That's crazy.
Could you imagine them doing tests, finding out it was baking powder, and then being like, oh, no, you're going to jail anyway?
But for somebody like, hey, I provided a service and you didn't pay me, and I'm calling you out because you didn't pay me, and then that person goes to the police is like, she's a witch.
Right.
You know? What the
At that point, do you think they threw her in jail for being a witch, or do you think they threw her in jail for being a charlatan?
A charlatan.
All right, so now we have some simple tea spells. So thankfully, there's little stopping you from making magical uses of tea in the 21st century. Some people mix black and green teas with other herbs for magical results. For example, you might add rose petals to help heal a broken heart, or adding lavender can help promote relaxing sleep. Add dried tea leaves to your pillow to make sure you'll sleep well. Some even thought you could actually halt nightmares, negative thoughts, or even sleep disturbances with this practice. Sarah Charrington Hollins recommends that you hold a handful of black tea leaves. Visualize money as an easy flow that comes to you while chanting, "Money come, money flow." When you feel the tea has been charged enough, brew them, as usual, in your favorite teapot. Visualize being wealthier while you drink the tea. S. Teresa Dietz gives a simple spell. Wear a pouch of Camellia sinensis as a talisman to increase your strength and give yourself a boost of courage. Courage tea! Witchcraft ingredients don't have to cost a fortune or be extremely rare. That's right, that's called practical magic.
Practical magic.
Practical magic. Just a little bit of practical magic and a little bit of heart goes a long way.
Little heart.
Yeah, just use the things in your kitchen that you have easy access to, and that's where all the magic happens. You don't need a lot of fancy schmancy stuff. And here are some folk remedies involving tea. Ruth Binney notes it was considered a bad idea to throw away tea leaves. In bygone eras, housewives put them onto the fire to keep poverty at bay. But that's not all tea leaves are good for. Mix black tea leaves and sage to create a hair rinse for dark hair. Green tea as a hair rinse can actually fight dandruff.
Oh.
If you've got sunburn, wash your face in cool black tea to ease the pain. The tannins in tea will also help soothe sore throats and mouth ulcers. Washing your face in warm tea will help open any blocked pores. Rejuvenate tired or puffy eyes by laying cold chamomile or black tea bags on your eyelids. Dude, that feels so good. Have you ever done that? Just like putting tea bags on your eyes? Oh, that feels amazing. Use green tea bags on sweat rashes and mosquito bites to lessen itching. Also, I'm sure like lavender probably helps with anti-itch as well if you have like a lavender chamomile tea bag. You can also burn tea leaves on an outside grill to deter mosquitoes. Make a foot bath with black tea, salt, and lemon to soothe any sores, swelling, aches, and even fungal infections. Soaking your feet in peppermint tea for 20 minutes will eradicate any smells, and also peppermint is just so soothing.
It is
so good. And you absorb through your feet. If you put essential oils on your feet, if you're having trouble sleeping, just put your essential oils on your feet. If you have like a lavender oil, it'll knock you out.
I'm going to try that tonight.
So used tea leaves also make a great odor absorber. Sprinkle nearly dry used leaves on the carpet and leave them to dry. Once dry, sweep them up and you'll find they've refreshed your carpet. Otherwise, put them in a bowl in the fridge to absorb smells. You can also put baking soda, I think, in your fridge to absorb smells. Baking soda is a great absorbent as well. You can enrich a compost pile with spent leaves or use them to fertilize peppers, roses, and camellias.
That and coffee grounds, like that can all go back in the earth. We compost our tea bags because nowadays most of them don't even use like the little staple to staple that little tag onto the string anymore. Yeah. Compost the whole thing.
Do you save your little tea bag tags if they have little cool, cute messages on them?
I don't, but I should start.
Just paste them in your little journal or your little grimoires.
Yeah, in your grimoire next to my Tasseomancy page.
You know what else I usually save?
What?
The fortunes from fortune cookies.
Aw, yeah.
I paste those in my little journals. I got one once that said you will get new clothes.
Oh shit! And did you?
Probably. I'm always getting new clothes, but I think I pasted it up in my closet as a manifesting kind of method.
I like that.
And then our last section here is about death and tea. Let's end this post about the folklore of tea with a spot of poison, since that's where fabulous folklore usually goes. Silver teapots were the preserve of the upper class with their elaborate tea rituals. The lower classes had to use pewter, which is a tin alloy that contains lead, antimony, copper, and bismuth. Remember that lead builds up in both the bones and the soft tissue and damages the nervous system. So not a great material to make a teapot from.
Yikes.
So don't drink tea from a pewter pot.
No.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Icy Cedric has such great information, so we like sharing it here. They have a really great encyclopedia of information. We're going to circle back to our old favorite of the Adagio or Adagio.com and their assortment of teas. We have highlighted some of the teas from this website in the past. Somebody in particular we've talked about, her name is Paige Huntman, has a full line of practical magic inspired teas on this site. And some of them, like I said, we've highlighted in the past, like the Sally Owens character episode, and I think even the Death Watch Beetle episode. However, there is a courage and caution inspired tea on there also by a woman named Dana Troker. And this is what their blend is comprised of. So we're going to link all of this in our show notes below. But if you're interested in checking out this tea, it's a blend of black tea, green tea, natural vanilla flavors, natural grapefruit flavor, raspberry leaves, orange, natural currant flavors, and marigold flowers. Very cute. So you're going to steep that for 3 minutes, and it's a highly caffeinated blend.
Nice.
Another person by the name of Elizabeth Brendon also created a courage caution tea. It has the same ingredients, black tea, green tea, raspberry leaves, etc. So that one we'll list also. But Elizabeth also has a blend of their own Liberty tea, as we mentioned from Magic Lessons, right?
Oh, nice.
So her interpretation of Liberty tea is a blend of black tea, rose hips, hibiscus, apple pieces, natural blackberry flavors, raspberry leaves, natural strawberry flavor, natural currant flavors, and strawberries. And you steep that for 3 minutes, and this is also a highly caffeinated mixture.
Yeah, I think most black teas are very caffeinated. Yeah, and that's got all those fruity flavors in it, which we talked about earlier when we were talking about the Liberty teas. All right, so are we going to let Brasidia Ryan take the stage and tell us everything?
Brasidia's on her way. Here we go.
Everything there is to know about. So is this dreams about tea, or does she actually have like tea reading interpretations?
They have in here a few different like tea ones. They have teacup, tea dance, which I don't know what a tea dance is, tea garden, and tea house, and tea kettle. Which one should I do?
I guess, what does tea kettle mean if you dream about a tea kettle?
Tea kettle. Okay. Do not take life for granted and really decide what you want and need and go for it. You will also have a variety of people enter your life who will offer joy and pleasure to your existence. You are headed for an awesome future.
Yeah, what's teacup?
Make sure you do not create friction between yourself and a special person. The head of your household needs to make sure all of the bases are covered, especially when it comes to financial situations. Proceed with caution for the next 3 days to ensure arguments do not begin.
Again, she's very precise.
Yeah, otherwise this is an extremely lucky omen. You will enjoy an abundance of health and many blessings will come to you and your family.
Okay, so we have that tea kettle, the teacup. What else does she have in there?
Got tea house and tea garden.
I guess tea garden.
Okay. You will develop a support system and network of knowledge you can draw from. This will enable you to position yourself in a comfortable lifestyle. You will have many opportunities for celebrating and will enjoy many joyful experiences. Prepare yourself for some unexpected good news that will come your way within a week. You are on the path toward a brilliant future and will feel as though everyone is on your side and supporting your goals.
That, you know what that reminds me of? The 10 of Cups card.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff with tea.
Cups. Well, if you think about it, cups, like those higher cards in the cup, the suit of cups, like they're all like really good vibes.
Yeah.
Right?
Should I do tea house? And then we'll wrap her up. So if you dream about a tea house, make sure you do not become involved with somebody who will snap at the slightest stress. This person has a short fuse and will become angry at the slightest provocation. You do not have time for this. I do not have time for you. Did you watch that show?
What is that? Are you talking about the Anna? What's her fucking name? She's a con artist, right? That
yes.
Yeah.
Do not have time for this.
That was perfect. That's such a good impression.
Become busy with something else, so you do not have to deal with this.
I do not have time for you. We have Judith's index on tea images.
Well, I figured we would just share that with the patrons. But if you want to pull out a few to share as a sum up of what to look for,
it's just an index. Basically, if you're gonna do some tea leaf reading for yourselves, this is like a whole alphabet in your tea leaves, what they mean. So it's a list from A to Z. Yep. She goes all the way through Z. So it's a lot. So we'll post this list, I guess, the reference sheet for you guys on the Patreon for you if you want that. So I guess that's all we have for today, right? And then we have some socials for you.
Yeah, man. where can they can go and check us out on Instagram. We're at Magnolia Street Podcast. I realized we never did a Hey Witch Hey or introduced ourselves in this episode, but whatever. You can also find us at our personal Instagrams. Those will be linked below, but mine is at Second Artistry.
And mine is at Justina's World Official and at Bohemian Magic Studios.
Nice. You can go find us on Patreon, patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast.
I mean, we have tiers ranging from $1 all the way up to $15. The $1 gets you access to polls, and was that the calendar? They get the calendar on the $1. Also a Patreon shout out on the air. When you join, we give you a little shout out. Our $3, you get show notes. $5, join us on Discord and our Facebook community. We do 1 live a month on the Facebook and 1 book club a month on the Discord. And that's just a lot of fun. You know what we should start doing? We should start doing movie nights on there. Maybe do a poll and have the patrons vote. Do they want a Facebook Live or do they want a movie night? Either or. It could be either one for the month. So we're not bombarded with stuff that we have to do. They decide what they want.
Okay.
So if they want a Facebook Live, they get a live. If they want to do a movie night, we do a movie night.
All right. And no Titanic, guys. Like we're thinking like an hour and a half movie, please.
So yeah, guys, checked out that tier, and then we have the $8 tier. I'm acting like I've never done this before.
We're tired.
Yeah, it's late. Yeah, check out the $8 tier if you guys want music and audio visual content. Oh yeah, by the way, the tea leaf reading that we did today and the tarot reading that we did today, you might not have heard the whole thing. You might have heard some of it, but whatever you didn't hear will be over on the Patreon on our $8 tier.
And there's no ever pressure to join our Patreon, but if you don't, we would really appreciate if you could give us a rating on Spotify. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please give us a written review. Those really help and those bump us up so other Practical Magic fans can find us.
Yeah. And then also we have the $15 tier, which if you guys want to talk to us every day via the Marco Polo free messaging app.
And we have an email at magnoliastreetpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Dude, last time I was like, we have an email. It's at Magnolia Street Podcast. That's all I said.
No Gmail, no handle, nothing. Just at Magnolia Street Podcast. Figure it out.
Yeah. Figure it out. All of our notes, all of our links are down below in our hero page. That's where all of our sources are. They are organized, and you can see all of our past episodes are organized by episode. So check those out. All right, Donna.
Darlene. Good night, Darlene.
Good night, Donna. All right. I'm Kristina.
I'm Justina. And we'll see you next time.
At that house down the street. At that house on Magnolia Street. Would you go down to Magnolia Street with the wisteria girl out? And that house of magic and mystery. So would you go down to Magnolia Street?
Where's my deck? Hold on, here it is.
Do you know that that like Swedish Euro performer guy?
Wait,
like a
are you
pop
talking
star?
about that song? What song is that? What is that song? What even is that?
Is that on Spotify?
I hope so. Can we link that? What's that called? Do you know what it's called?
I'm gonna look it up.
But
I
how do you
can't-
look that up? It's just a sound effect.
The meme is like my ADHD when I'm trying to sleep, and I was like,